Let's look at the moves. Thank you. What was that?
This is not FPL. This is a major.
Wagwan gamers, locked in to HotKeys Esports, hottest esports podcast on the planet. To my right, as always, we have the one, the only, man on the sticks, Praeyter. How's it going?
What up, brother? It's good, man. I feel like I'm living in like a weird renaissance time. Like from a content perspective, just everything's going my way right now. I'm just getting like fed on the constant. So yeah, we're doing real good out here, brother.
Right on, right on. And again, as always, myself, Doban. And today we've got the re-recording of our lost episode.
The part 2.
Yeah.
Of an episode that I think has been referred to twice and hasn't come out.
Yeah, right. We mentioned it last episode
twice.
Because we mentioned re-recording it this episode, and then we referenced it in a previous episode that came out after the first recording of it. So we're connecting the dots.
Topic.
Yeah. It's if you've ever tried to follow the Gundam timeline, it's kind of like that now. All right. You've got HotKeys UC happening.
I was gonna say, are we in UC or are we in like a standalone time bit?
I mean, like IBO and Witch are like cooler, but
listen, they're all good.
They're all good. They're all good.
You could. There's good Gundam and there's bad Gundam, and I've seen most of it.
We're not in the G Gundam timeline, so
yeah,
Breakers.
You don't.
Or was it Build?
Breakers is fine.
Breakers is fine, but it's like
you're talking about Build Fighter.
I'm talking about Build Fighter, yeah.
Build Fighters, it's if you're into like a Beyblade or Yu-Gi-Oh, it's just like Gundam. It's
cool.
Gundam doing that.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, there's this meta narrative,
and they've got like kit bashing, like in-lore kit bashing, which is pretty sick.
In-lore kit bashing, which is cool. But, they get away from it. One thing I'll say they get away from that kind of annoyed me in like some of the later Build Fighter stuff is like they used to go way harder on like the meta stuff of like what you're talking about, where like, oh, the build quality that like people are doing affects like the in-game statistics.
This guy brought a master grade, so his robot's just twice as big as yours, and you can't do anything about it. Well, it's
like they would do like weird tweaks. Like one of them, like I remember they tried to shoot like a mobile suit with like a laser, and the laser bounced off, and they were like, oh, he used anti-laser paint on when he painted the model, and I'm like, that's cool. That's neat.
Okay.
There was this girl where she had a custom. So they were called bear guys.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. So they're based on a different like Zaku from like original Gundam.
That's got like real chunky bear kind of shape to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that, but it has a bear head and like bear paws. Like it literally looks like a bear. So they're called bear guys. Well, this girl, her thing was like she was into stuffed animals. So they like in the in-world builders match, someone goes and like laser slashes her bear guy, and then a bunch of string and fluff like come out of it and like gum up the thing's joints. And she was like, "Oh, well, I really like stuffed animals, so all of my models are stuffed with twine, thread."
It's insanity.
It's a fun series. Okay, it's just a fun series. It's a good time.
It's a great time.
Yeah,
but back to the subject at hand. Back to the
other fun times.
Other fun times. Yeah. We've got hobbies.
Other fun things. Yeah.
Back to the hobby that we're putting out there. We don't have any Gundam build videos yet, but who knows? The HotKeys in the wild.
Dude, when Gundam Versus is back, bro.
Oh yeah, when Gundam Versus 2 XP Reload, whatever crazy like Japanese name they're gonna give it, because I don't know how that goes. Then we'll cover it. FGC is alive.
It's one of the coolest arcade games of all time.
It's pretty sick. It's pretty sick.
Unironically, so sick.
I need like a Ace Combat style like mecha shooter, but like competitive. So you have like 2 fighter pilots and like a whole thing. That'd be sick. You have 2 cabinets
that'd be
on
actually
stage.
Sick. Yeah,
that'd be like the coolest thing.
Yeah, that'd be kind of badass. That unironically is what makes that game unique in the fighting game world. Is like it is, everyone's like, oh, 2x KO, the first like 2v2 fighter. No, Gundam Versus, like that, the entire competitive scene around Gundam Versus is a 2v2 scene.
There's also a new one coming out too. There's not Gundam, but a 2v2 fighter, Diesel something or other. I saw Rafflegator playing it.
I don't know.
I don't know how to spell Diesel. Diesel Legacy. The Brazen Age.
Oh!
It's like a SNK style
Yeah.
like lane fighter, but it's 2v2.
Yeah,
and you can jump
I know
between,
which
like,
one
the
you're
three
talking
lanes.
about. The one that's being done by like Maximum or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't
the
seen footage of
Skullgirls,
that,
but if Skullgirls was SNK themed instead of Marvel 3.
it does have cool art. Like I
No,
do
it's sick.
like, yeah, I like its art
A
quite
lot
a
of cool characters too.
But yeah, I haven't seen jack shit from it. But that's cool. I'm glad we're exploring that space more in
Yeah.
fighting games. I think that is an important, a cool space to explore.
The KOF 98 style, and I think Karnov's used lanes as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably. I know
Maybe.
jack shit about that
probably.
game other than it getting memed on all the time.
Yeah, I mean old ass fighting games from
yeah.
a bygone era. But while we're on track there, TWT.
Mhm.
Tekken
Yeah,
World Tournament.
I'm reporting live from Shibuya, where the TWT is taking place.
For the audio crowd, which is our entire
crowd.
listener base, because we don't post videos.
No. They're all just visual bits to appease
Praeyter's
themselves.
background is Shibuya Crossing in live action.
I'm pretty sure it's from Persona 5. I was like looking at it when I like added it. I'm 90% sure it's from Persona 5.
Nice.
But it's still Shibuya. So
give me P5U so I can have
dude
the Joker Persona summon.
Don't even get me started on how good
It would be
Persona 4 Ultimax is. That game is unironically sick as fuck.
It's so sick.
Yeah. Lord Knight, I think, has a meme where they were talking about I forget. It was on a recent video I watched. Where he was talking about someone talking about just like a game that he was watching a clip of someone talking about a fighting game that like rewards you for putting time in and like learning the depth of your character and playing like strong fundamental neutral. And he's like, and they were talking about all this in reference to Street Fighter 4, I think, something like that. And Lord Knight just pauses the video and he goes, yeah, I think that guy, what he meant to say is Persona 4 Ultimax.
Persona 4 Ultimax.
Whatever. Yeah. We'll say Street Fighter 4, sure.
We'll say, yeah. Game that's say fighting games. All right, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it.
P4 Ultimax unironically sick. That game is actually so good and so solid and like
that game is
such
tight.
a good game. Yeah.
That like era of fighting games was really good because what we got.
It's a hot era. It's a hot era.
Central Fiction before that.
No, Central Fiction's after.
It's after? Okay, yeah.
I forget which BB is happening during that time. It might be Chrono Phantasma Extend, which is like unironically one of my favorite versions of that game.
It's arguably one of the better one of the two.
I just
like the roster.
Dude, anything is better than Calamity Trigger. That game is a joke.
Listen,
they were still figuring out what that game was supposed to be for the first 2 iterations.
That's the modern Kusuge.
Actually, though, Calamity Trigger is a fucking joke. Like the first version of BlazBlue is like a laughable, like from a balance perspective, is like actually laughable. Yeah. There's shit in that game that like, yeah. Carl, don't get me started.
I realized we never set up the topic for this video. So before we get into TWT, the last episode was supposed to be how to keep a scene and what it takes to play with the big dogs, to be in the big leagues.
Yeah. How did your
esports?
game go from game to esport?
Yeah.
What does that mean, and what do you have to do on top of that to maintain? What are the good ways and bad ways to maintain your scene for longevity standpoint, right? What we believe are good, and that kind of stuff. That is the main topic. Yeah.
And
but
what better way to talk about scene than with fighting games? So live from Shibuya, Praeyter, tell me how TWT
live from Shibuya, TWT. So we're at the TWT World Finals. For those that don't know, TWT is the Tekken World Tour. It is essentially fighting your big fighting games, all 3 of them, mind you. So if we want to talk about the current modern era of big 3 fighting games, you've got Guilty Gear Strive, you've got Street Fighter 6, obviously, and Tekken.
T8, baby.
Yeah, T8. So all of these games follow what is called.
You see, they canceled their DLC after like this set. Like this Combat Pass, like the last one, and they're just like, "Fuck it."
That's actually crazy. Is that real?
Yeah,
I didn't even know.
Yeah,
that.
after Ghostface got revealed, they announced that this is gonna be like their like last fighter pass because like
That's
it's just not selling good.
fucking. Well, dude, all I ever hear every time a DLC comes out for that game is that it's like broken in some way. Either broken in like a legitimate unbalanced way, or broken like the character doesn't work. Broken like every time.
I don't know.
That's all I ever hear on a DLC character.
It's NRS. I got into like a whole thing about how the greater community just doesn't find NRS games as fun as other games. And I got some
listen.
shit for that,
I am someone who I echo your sentiment. I also have never been able to get into like I think they're fun to mash
they look
on.
sick. Like I will say, like NRS games look fun to play. Like watching an NRS game is a lot more fun for me, at least, than actually playing one.
Yeah, visually, I think they're saying I like mashing on it casually with other casual players. But if we're talking about like a game I want to like invest time to and get better at and learn, like yeah, they've never ticked that box for me.
It just feels so
like
stiff,
I just
man.
don't. They feel insanely stiff.
And as like an anime
totally
player, like you and I, we play Gear, we play Uni, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's not.
Those games are just like you're flying around. Everything feels so fluid and freeform.
No,
I play NRS and the guy's like punching in the air and it's like an action figure moving.
It feels like even when you jump, there's something about like the stiffness to doing like a forward jump in that game that is so awkward. Like it's like at least in Street Fighter when I'm doing like when I'm committing to the forward arc, like you know I don't know, like I there's a good feeling there. If I'm jumping forward in MK, I don't know.
The gravity in that game feels so heavy too. Like I jump and then I don't move forward like at all. It's like I don't know.
Yeah.
Talk about jump-ins in a game that doesn't have jump-ins, so it's fine.
True.
Like it's
those games kind of have jump-ins.
Like kind of like some characters do, but like it just feels bad to do them.
No, yeah. But yeah, even Mortal Kombat, now that we brought it up, they all, in fighting games, this is the most pop. If you are a big company with a decent amount of money to throw around, you all follow the tour model. It's something that's been kind of a thing since like Street Fighter. It's even predates Street Fighter 5, to be honest. It was around in Street Fighter 4 as well, with the Capcom Pro Tour.
When they started
TWT, I think, has been going on since at least Tekken Tag 2, maybe before that. I believe TWT existed during the Tekken Tag 2 era, I think. So yeah, that one's been around. Yeah, TWT's been around for a very long time. Too? No.
Okay.
I know there is a version of it.
I've only ever seen the Wii U version, so
I think it released there first or something like that. That was the first console release. Yeah. But it was not exclusive.
I mean, I know it was in arcades, but
I know what you're saying. I believe came out on Wii U first.
It's like actual insanity.
But yeah, it is everywhere. You know why I know that? Because of the Snoop Dogg DLC that was tied to Tekken Tag 2, and that was like how it got sold on Xbox and shit. The Snoop Dogg stage in Tekken Tag 2 is badass.
I learned that Lars was in a Ninja Storm game.
Yeah, he's fun in that game too. I forget which one, but yeah, no, Lars is absolutely in one. And well, his cost, the reason for it, I think, was because his
in Tekken 5.
And it's designed by Kishimoto.
Yeah.
Like it literally, like he's the one that made it. Yeah. No, exactly. Sick. The Tekken 5 costume was designed by Kishimoto, and it's like they're both Bandai Namco games, obviously, too. So that obviously helps. But yeah, Lars is in that game.
They should put Kakashi in Tekken 8. That should be the guest character.
Hey, they said they're not. Everyone's kind of freaking out because they said they are not announcing the last guest character at TWT.
They do it at Evo.
Well, everyone's saying Game Awards, and so everyone's kind of like blowing up.
We're like,
why
on stage.
Why would you show it at Game Awards if it wasn't a crossover character? So everyone's now, the crossover speculations are all back.
Bring out Harada.
So we'll see.
It's like, don't ask me for shit.
Don't ask me for shit. Yeah.
And
if the game's broke, suck on it. I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Netcode is coming back. That's his announcement.
You have this tour model, right? That is kind of where your big dogs in fighting games go to when they want to host a bigger scale esports event. It works because obviously the fighting game scene is grassroots, and most of your homegrown tournaments are just that. They're homegrown. They get bigger over time. Whatever, they sort of earn their spectacle a lot of the times. Evo, I think, is what it is because it has garnered that reputation with the community. And, that's where we're at. and now it's the Super Bowl of fighting games.
Yeah.
So as a
expanded.
Capcom or an Arc System Works
Paris is happening
or
soon, right?
Huh?
Evo Paris is like supposed to be happening soon, or it already happened.
Yeah, basically Evo is now expanded to basically be Evo Japan, Evo Las Vegas, and they will have like essentially it seems like it's like a satellite Evo where it's like it will move.
It'll travel around and
two locations. Okay. Yeah, the first one being in
Paris.
Nice. No, it's in Nice.
Oh, it's in Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Dragon Ball is on the lineup, and
W.
You know exactly why, because the French love Dragon Ball. I don't know what it is. But yeah, so this sort of franchise model works for them because they can leverage these community-based events, the ones that have obviously are big and garner reputations. You can include them on your tour as big stops, and then all of this culminates into a final where your own hosted final as like Bandai Namco, they host TWT final, and basically you've got a bunch of players that through their whatever they did the qualification, the rules for qualification vary via leagues. I believe we talked about that before with that one CPT episode where I railed against how much I think the Capcom Pro Tour format is a little bunk at the moment. The Tekken World Tour actually has a pretty nice one. So the Tekken World Tour, pretty rare, is like the way you get points to get into the TWT final is entirely offline. There is not a single online event that gives you points.
Oh, so incentivizes you to go out and compete.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically, you send in your event to the Bandai Namco Esports division. They figure out based on number of entrants what category the event falls into, and then the category of the event determines the number of points, right? I think Master Plus is the highest, and then Dojo is the smallest, and there's a bunch in between. Things like Evo are Master Plus. A monthly tournament, out in your state of choice that gets 100 entrants is probably like a Dojo Plus level event, right? Yeah. So you can still get points for going to that, which is nice. It's cool.
Something like Tampa Never Sleep or something like that. Like those larger,
helps like build like your local scene. New York. Yeah.
I think they're smashed, but still like
I think Xanadu's closing now. That's crazy.
Oh, fuck, for real?
Yeah, that happened recently. Yeah, legit. Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, man. Love those guys.
No, I know. As I say, that's the kind of stuff that builds your scene. We'll get into that. But TWT, the way you qualify, they have a cool format this year. So basically, it's a leaderboard system, right? You get points from these events. The top, I believe it was top 40 from the leaderboard enter into the TWT like World Tour final.
Okay, and then they do like a round robin of all 40 players, and then
the way it starts is it's top 20. It's not a top 40. I had it mistaken. So it's top 20. Basically, the way the top 20 works is it started with global group stage. So essentially, there are like four groups. So they had two leaderboards. I guess I should say that. Yeah, I forgot. They're the two leaderboard one. So they have the global leaderboard, right? That's everyone in the globe. The top 20 go to TWT final. Then the top ranked player for each of there are 15 regional leaderboards that are, specifically placed in regions. The number one player from each of those 15 regional leaderboards goes to TWT final. And then you get like 35, and then two players from the LCQ, which the LCQ just happened, I believe, last night it finished. So the way it worked is, at first you had the global group stage. So you had 5 groups, A, B, C, and D, with 5 players each. The top 2 make it out to the winner's side of the finals. And the other 3 are automatically entered into the LCQ, which is happening like the day after, essentially.
I got you.
The global group stage was really good. A lot of good matches. Group A was CBM, Arslan Ash, Chanel, Jod, and Lee Mishima. CBM and Arslan Ash, I think, both made it out at 3-1. pretty dominant. CBM looked sick. His Jhin looked disgusting. Group B, it was the John, Pakistan player. For those who don't know, he plays King. Shadow 20Z, one of the few Americans in TWT final.
King player respect lost. No, I'm just kidding. Love King.
Yeah. Joka, Molgold, and Chikarin. Out of this group's huge W for the old US of A. The John and Shadow 20Z make it out.
Dubs.
Yeah, no, Shadow, an Atlanta-based player, I'm pretty sure. One of the few Americans who made it into Tekken World Tour final has made it to final bracket through group stage, beating Molgold, Chikarin, and Joka, which is like, Joka's a dude from the UK. Molgold is a really good Korean player. Chikarin is a really good Japanese player. Like, really good players in that group. So definitely stoked that he made it out. Group C was Rongchu, Ryef, Double, AK, and Lowhigh. Rongchu and Ryef made it out. So, everyone's favorite bear player is in the final bracket. Rongchu made it out 4-0 too. He was fucking people up. And then Group D was Atif, Keikoma, Farzine, Ulsan, and Nobi. Some people were saying this is probably the hardest group in the group stage for global group. I am kind of inclined to agree. Ulsan and Nobi are two disgusting Dragunov players. Atif is a Pakistan player who is maybe the best Dragunov in the game. And you've got Farzine, who is also insanely good, and Keikoma, who is also insanely good. Keikoma and Atif made it out. Atif made it out 3-1. Keikoma made it out 3-1. Just a really stacked group. But yeah, so all the losers who did not make it out of that group went down to the LCQ. Then we had regional group stage. So this was only 3 groups. These are the 15 players, 3 groups of 5. The way this one worked is the top 2 of each of these go into the bracket final, which is a double elimination bracket.
Yeah.
And but they start in loser's side because they didn't get in through the global leaderboard. They got in through the regional. So even winning this group, you start in loser's side of the finals bracket. So Group A had Daniel Motto from, I forget if he's Italy. Oh, I'm going to mouse over this flag. That's going to Italy. He is Italy. I was right. Numan, who is a Pakistan player. Fear of Silence, the other American.
Just describe it to me. I got you.
Yeah.
I got the flagtism.
Honestly, the graphic fucked me up because I was like, I'm 90% sure it's Italy, but it had like a weird shade on it, so I almost thought it had a thing in the middle, and I'm like, that's Mexico, but that doesn't make any sense.
I got you.
Yeah. But it's all good. So yeah, Daniel Motto from Italy, Numan from Pakistan, Fear of Silence, the other American, Aladar from Guam.
Little like surfboard shape on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's Guam. And Dedekar, which is he's Moroccan. Out of this one, unfortunately, our boy Fear of Silence did not make it out of this group. It was Daniel Motto and Numan who made it out of that group.
Nice.
Group B was Divine Exorcist from Mexico, Sam Brother from Saudi Arabia, Mio from South Korea, Shonen, who's a Japanese player, and Quadicus, that looks like Greece. Yes, I was right, Greece. Out of this group, we have, yeah, you're right. Out of this one, Divine Exorcist makes it out 3-1. Sam Brother makes it out 3-1. And then Group C was my boy Book, my favorite Thailand player. I love Book. Big fan of Book. Book. Shaoling from
Shadow Book. Get on the show, Book.
I can't pronounce the name of that country. What the fuck?
What's it look like?
That's crazy. It looks like it's an orange, white, green flag, but it's not.
Orange?
Cote d'Ivoire?
Côte d'Ivoire. Oh, the Ivory Coast.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
It's French. Yeah, Côte d'Ivoire.
Okay, yeah. Shaolin from Côte d'Ivoire. Noel from Bolivia. Tijan from India. Yeah. And then Yondaime from Madagascar.
Madagascar players nuts. Only in the FGC.
Yeah.
Man. You'll never see that in Counter-Strike.
Yeah. Book and Shelling make it out of that group. So super stoked to see Book also make it in. Like I said, big Book fan.
I'm sorry, I was fighting the urge to say if he likes to move it, move it. It was a low-hanging fruit. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So Book, to paint the picture of why I like Book so much, to be fair to the audience here, Book is I feel for this guy because this dude was like the pinnacle of like, he had a run in Tekken 7 to me that was like pinnacle grinder shit. And he's been doing this like in Tekken 8 too. Book had a run in Tekken 7 where the guy was making, I kid you not, he was making top 8 at every fucking major tournament. Literally everyone. He was making it to everyone, and he could not get the win for the life of him. He would get thirds, fourths, fifths, sometimes a second, but he could not fucking make it to first for any of those events. He fucking ends up winning the last chance qualifier, and that was how he made it into Tekken World Tour final that year. It was like, yeah, I don't know, just peak grinder shit. Like, crazy, I don't know, man. I put so much respect on it. Like,
crazy.
Guy was traveling the world, fighting his ass off, and it took until the last possible minute where he got in through LCQ. Like, oh my god. But yeah, so yeah, they all make it into Tekken World Tour final. The LCQ was a fucking bloodbath, because obviously not only do you have every person who did not make it out of those groups now in an LCQ, it's also an open bracket tournament where anyone in Japan can sign up for it, and every player that didn't make it out of those groups that's also very good probably went if they thought they had a chance. So you had just a disgusting bloodbath tournament of people climbing through that LCQ. A lot of crazy matches. We ended up, I know Edge, the Korean Hwarang player, made it out. I believe he made it out in second. And Keisuke, I think, made it out in first from the LCQ. Really high execution Kazuya player. If you're into Mishimas, he's kind of, that's the man you pin your hopes on if you're a Mishima enjoyer, is definitely Keisuke. He plays a very mean Kazuya. Like, we're talking, double wave dash, double electric type shit, like real gross execution stuff. He's also famous for doing that shit and then choking out combos when they're supposed to win him the game. But yeah, so yeah, real exciting. We now, like I said, we have a full bracket now. Finally, for the actual final bracket is complete. I believe it's some good matches in the first round. I know Atif and I don't know what the seeding for the final bracket is, but like, I think Atif and Arslan are playing each other in quarterfinals on winner's side. So like, Pakistan is eliminating itself, or putting itself in losers really early.
Listen, man, it happens to NA all the time. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, CBM and Keikoma are fucking. That's a Korean on Korean match that's happening in quarterfinals very early. The John and Raif, that's Pakistan v Saudi Arabia. And then I know
just had that like mini coup.
Yeah, yeah. And then Shadow, I think Shadow is playing. Yeah, Shadow's playing Rongchu, first round of winners quarters.
Okay.
So yeah, it's looking to be sick. Like I said, a lot of really good players. If you want to root for an American boy, we got one in winner's side quarterfinals. So like our region's got skin in the game.
USA.
Yeah, I'm saying our region's got skin in the game. It's not just like, okay, well, let me vote for my favorite foreign player. We got a boy out there. One of Atlanta's finest is in there. So yeah, really exciting stuff.
And he's from the best coast, the East Coast.
That's what I'm saying. East Coast, baby. East Coast, Atlanta native, right outside our doorstep.
We have just angered the entire population of the West Coast.
Whatever.
Your only state that matters is California, and there's 3 of you guys. So we've got like 13 at least. In the Northeast.
All the West Coasters get the commentary jobs,
That's what I'm saying, yeah. You're on the talent. You're on the talent coast. We're on the.
Our guys are playing. We're playing the game.
Yeah.
I do love that one of the historically best regions in Tekken is Atlanta. That's very funny to me. I'm very into
huge. Huge.
Yeah. The ATL coming out big for TWT.
Shout out Atlanta.
Hot Atlanta, baby.
Oh.
They don't call it the heat system for nothing.
Second best city in the southeast. No, it's the first.
No. Yeah.
It's like if the southeast was like a country, it'd be the capital.
Where do you draw the line on southeast? Like how far north is the end of southeast?
How far north? I say the Carolinas.
Yeah. And how far west? Like is Louisiana the dividing line? Like, is that where we're at?
I think so. Let me pull up a map actually. Like I know like everywhere else but my own country. It bores me. Yeah, because Texas is southwest, so like Louisiana is the dividing line. But that being said, I don't think Arkansas is southeast. Arkansas is Midwest, so it's like a weird like jagged line that cuts around like Tennessee and shit.
It gets weird. Yeah, no, it gets weird.
You cut off at North Carolina.
Okay. If that's our metric for the southeast, yeah, I could totally agree with Atlanta being the number one city on the number one or number two city on the southeast.
It's between Atlanta and like New Orleans.
I'm a Miami hater, so yeah, it's like, you know.
Terrible place. Terrible place. I do
thing.
have to make a pilgrimage down there though. My favorite graffiti writer has an exhibit at the graffiti museum.
It's got some cool things you can go to, but as a city, fuck that. I hate the Miami airport.
Guess what? It's from Atlanta. So there we go.
Atlanta, back at it again.
Full circle, baby. Shout out Vane. Gotta get Vane on here. See what he thinks about Street Fighter.
No, I'm kidding. Tekken World Tour, really exciting. It's been like, I would love to give you like highlight matches, but I'm not kidding. It's just been sick. People have just been mauling each other. I don't know. All the matches have been very good. So yeah, you really can't go wrong.
Right on.
Catch those fucking finals. Man, you know, it's the big one.
I love watching FGC, so like just fighting games in general, because it's always like so much more hype and the storylines are so much more personal than they are in other esports. So
that's part of that it's just part of that grassroots thing, I think, right? Like we're kind of, it's why I appreciate because like these tour formats, they definitely lend to that, right? Where you can follow a player's journey through that tour, and that gives you something. And it's why I appreciate people like Brian F, who are on the Capcom side of things. You know, he's a Street Fighter player and like content creator. And he goes out of his way basically after every event that would mean something towards the CPT. He does a video on the event highlighting big moments, big matches, as well as trying to get that narrative across about like, this player's doing this player's doing this is why this is important. So if like you ever wanted to like brush up on like, where's the CPT at, especially with, you know, that one's around the corner too. We're getting real close to Capcom Cup as well. You know, everything's finally starting to kick off across all games, really. But yeah, he's got all sorts of great videos covering every like major event that is led up to, you know, Pro Tour, why it matters, who's there, why they matter. And yeah, I think that is part of the charm of fighting game, like the LC, you know, the way that this tour format lends itself.
If it's one thing we want to do on this channel, it is inspire you to spread your horizons, expand your horizons, and
100%
check out other esports that you might not be immediately interested in because it's not a game that you play, but a lot of them are like super sick to watch, especially fighting games. So if you're like exclusively like Counterstrike or League or something like that, check out some Tekken, check out some Gear, and
100%
fall in love with that because it's
Tekken. Tekken, even if you aren't going to learn anything about it, I think Tekken from a visual standpoint is extremely exciting. Even if you never play
these games,
it's just extremely exciting to watch Tekken. I think it's
good to watch.
Fighting games have, and I think we can maybe discuss this a bit later.
Yeah, we'll come back around to some of these.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I'll save for later. But I will say one thing we'll get into when we talk about this stuff is I do think readability and watchability obviously play a big factor in like your game being successful as an esport, and I think there are games that suffer from being hard to watch for multiple reasons.
Mainly MOBAs, and we'll get into that as we start talking about those.
I think one of fighting game strengths is they're extremely easy to watch because it's a fight. You see the health bar. You see hit land, health bar decrease. Anyone can get it. You don't need to know anything like beyond that. You know.
So I'm gonna go back to the Southeast thing and segue.
Yeah.
To
please.
ESL. We've got some moves happening. Dota is having a not major, but like a tier 1 tournament out in Bangkok on the 9th, so in 2 days as of this recording. On December 7th. So the teams are locked in.
No, today's December 7th.
Yeah, today's the 7th.
What's happening today?
No, I'm saying today's the 7th. 2 days from now as of recording on the 7th.
Yeah. I misunderstood.
No, okay.
December 9th. Right.
So all the teams are locked in, and they keep emailing me to get my tickets, and I'm telling them I'm not flying to Thailand. I have a day job.
Come on, dude, just fly to Thailand.
No,
What's the big deal?
Time zones, man. I can't log on to work from Thailand. Anyways, we have our groups, and we have some roster news. So Group A, Avulas, I don't know how to pronounce that. They've got a cool deer, or it might be a dragon, as their logo. Western Europe.
That is not what I expected the might be thing to go from deer. When you said might be a deer, might be a dragon.
Yeah, it's got like, it might be like,
it's like a Chinese dragon. It's got the answers.
Antlers or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't really tell what it is, but it's cool. It's green. They had some drama because one of their players was like trying to fight another player like outside the hotel at another ESL event, I think. No, at like a PGL event.
Find a base.
And I mean, he said put him up, and they got like a 10-minute draft penalty. Or something
That's
like that.
Actually shockingly low.
Or like, might not have been like a 10-minute draft, but like it was like they got like 10 seconds removed from their draft.
That is a crazy small penalty for something that seems like a much more major offense.
Yeah, it was like nothing. It was like nothing, and he like went up to him.
I was totally joking when I said based, and when you responded with their penalty was, hey, you get to talk 10 seconds less. That's wild.
Yeah. The player went up and physically put hands on someone, like put an arm around them and like started threatening them with violence.
Yeah, no. It's not okay.
And then their coaches had to like get between them and be like, hey, don't do that. And then when it was reported to PGL's like, yeah, it's just gonna, you have to just pick your character a little faster.
These guys lose a band.
Yeah, like, pretty much. Like,
what the fuck?
It was nothing, dude. It was.
Yeah, that's a crazy slap on the wrist.
Shout out PGL. I heard somewhere that they hired the first deaf audio engineer, and I don't know if that's true or not, but that's really funny.
Wow.
People love hate on PGL. Listen, I got no beef with them. I just watch the stuff.
I was gonna say, is that like a meme tweet? Are they like clowning on them?
I don't know. Hilarious. It's somebody. I heard it somewhere.
Because that like speaks to an old joke that I once saw on Twitter. I don't even know what album it was referring to, but someone posted like an album and they're like, yo, have y'all heard this? This shit is fire on mute. And it took me a second, but then I like realized what they were saying. I'm like, damn, that's pretty funny. Mute. Yeah.
But yeah, so Group A is Avulis from Western Europe, Boom from SEA, Navi from Eastern Europe. Obviously, that's Navi, like the quintessential Eastern European org. Shopify Rebellion from NA with a NA coach, and that is it. Yeah, dude, we have
Classic, I would say that's North America. What do you mean?
There's not a single American player at this tournament. It is just Bulba as the coach. NA Dota is dead and gone. Nouns disbanded, and it's been over since then.
Nouns disbanded. Oh.
Nouns is gone. Nouns is completely Nouns doesn't even have like an NA player on their team.
Nice. I mean, what is more American than an American wallet funding foreign mercenaries? I don't know.
There's also something to be said there, but I think that would be. I don't think I can talk about the insurance world on this podcast. It's not. I'm not a financier.
All I'm saying is look across all of esports, and it's the Overwatch way, as they say. Yep. fire the team. We're bringing in Koreans. Like
daily. It's a move. The league had to
flying in Koreans.
League
right
had to
now.
put a stop to it. They put brakes on that.
Yeah, well, thank God. If someone has some integrity for their league and decided, maybe there should be import rules.
Maybe. Who knows? Falcons and Spirit. So I would say the groups actually seem pretty balanced at this tournament, considering like the
Is
mix.
Falcons a Saudi Arabian team in CS? I feel like I've asked this before.
In CS?
I'm curious.
No, they just like hire.
They just bought a team.
They just buy like the best talent and then put them on a team together.
It's their Apex roster. I was just same thing. They just bought.
It's the same in Dota. Their Dota team
the
is
best 3 Apex players they could.
I was wrong. I'll sit here and be wrong. Snaking, baby. Gaming's not at this tournament, so we don't have Quinn for NA representation, but we have Snaking.
Okay.
Snaking's playing.
All right. Cool.
He's on a team with Crit. Love Crit.
Okay.
It's one of my goats. From Denmark, ATF from I think that's what Jordan. I've been on Jordan. Yeah. Marlene and Skitter. Russian and Slovakian respectively, and Aoi 2000 as their coach from Canada. So
I like that the Dota
3 NA reps.
Overwatch had bring in the Koreans as like the meme for like how do you fill out a roster? You just bring in the Koreans. I like that Dota's is like bring in like a Slovakian or Russian player. That's like how you round out your roster.
Bring in literally anybody.
Yeah.
Like Spirit is all Russian, and then Malik is just some dude from Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
So
find a European, preferably Eastern.
Moldovan on BB team. So yeah. So Group A, Spirit, Falcons. Falcons is winning everything. We went over that in a previous episode. They're just winning every Dota tournament imaginable right now. They're like 2022 Gaming in 2024. So Gaming is struggling. They're not at this one, which makes me sad because I love those guys. But listen, Dyrachio was apparently in talks to be on another Bet Boom team. Like BB team is going to make another roster and put Dyrachio and Toronto Tokyo on it. So that's might be happening. Who knows? But going from BB team, Group B, BB team, Gaozu, which is a big deal because that's Ame, Zinq, DY, JT, and Paparazzi with a bunch of like commas at the end of his name. From China. That's like the Chinese super team that just got put together because Ame is like, hey, I'm retiring, but I'm not retiring. I'm retiring from this team and making my own team. M80, and M80 is interesting because M80 is the newly acquired Beast Coast roster.
Oh.
So Beast Coast is no more, and they're on M80. And I think they might have signed a new roster, but
so
M80,
Beast Coast is just not fielding a team?
It looks like
in Dota anymore?
It looks like M80 just bought up their entire roster.
Oh, but Beast Coast is like still
Beast Coast might be making a new roster, but M80
a new roster, but at least M80 bought up.
Because I checked this like last week, and it was Beast Coast, and now it's M80. So I don't know. Shout out M80 though. Their CS roster is like fine. Not like great.
I wonder. Well, I know Beast Coast has been doing the whole pairing thing with different orgs. I honestly wonder if it's not just a thing where like Beast Coast and M80 are like.
No, this is like just straight up M80. Like this is just them. Yeah.
Oh, here I found it. No, yeah, literally as of 2 days ago, M80 like owns Beast Coast.
Oh, they just bought them. They bought the whole org.
They acquired Beast Coast. Yeah.
Oh shit. Nice.
Yeah.
That's actually huge. How did that go into our radar? We're pretty.
I don't know. That's why I just looked it up. No,
right
100%. Yeah, M80 owns Beast Coast now.
You heard it here last.
Shout out to shout out to Lord Knight, who is Beast Coast.
M80 now.
He is gone from Beast Coast to M80.
Yeah.
Don't cut the fighting game, people, please. For the love of God.
M80 is a North American org though. They're based out of the U.S. and they're split between.
Beast Coast was Latin.
Beast Coast is Latin. M80 is
M80 is USA.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, shit.
Nigma Galaxy. That is spelled Nigma.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are they allowed to keep that name? Because the last team that Yeah, the last team that had that name was forced to make their name change.
Well, before it was just Enigma,
Oh, you're right. Before they were just
and so they had to
and now
add
they're
Galaxy so they could
Enigma
call them
Galaxy.
NG. And
I see.
yeah,
Okay.
or
I
Galaxy.
see.
They just call them Galaxy
They just call them
sometimes.
Galaxy.
Yeah.
If I was a fucking caster, yeah, I
It
would
happened.
absolutely
It happened.
just be.
There's a
Well,
clip.
no, I know that's why they were forced to do the change, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because it was after that happened, they were like, "You gotta,
Yeah.
you know what you're doing. Stop." Like,
There's like a short pause afterwards, and they just keep
Yes.
going like nothing happened, but it's great.
yeah. No, because I remember the clip. The clip was famous, and they were forced to change the name very shortly after that. Like, I
Funny
think
enough-
the same event they had to change their name.
Funny enough, Falcons is not the Meswa representation. It's NG, and they're gonna be NG for the
God.
rest of this episode.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Miracle, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, top carry player, fallen from grace, but they're kind of back now, so I'm here for it because I think he just re-signed to NG.
Cool.
If I'm not mistaken. I don't know about their roster moves, but it was like I know there was like a big deal with Miracle coming back like recently.
Yeah.
Sumail, the prodigal son of Dota. Noob, Omar, GH, and they're coached by Kuroki. So it's a bunch of Lebanese dudes, a Pakistani, and a Jordanian, coached by a German.
Classic Dota.
Dota at its finest. Love it.
Yeah, this is classic Dota.
Paravision, who, they've kind of found their stride. Chrysalis is a great carry. No One is a phenomenal mid laner. DM, 9 Class, Ducalis, all just great players. Eastern European team with a Brazilian coach. Again, the Dota Classic. We'd love to see it. And then Liquid,
Yeah.
an NA org
Yeah.
full of Swedes.
Tweets, yeah. No,
Yeah.
definitely.
And a
correct.
huge staff team and coaching staff so large that they just had to put a staff button on their Wikipedia page. But it is
Sick.
in fact Blitz, who is the fucking madman behind that roster. Holy shit. Yeah. So ESL, I had a transition for ESL and it's taken like forever to get through this, but
Yes.
this tournament's starting soon. This one in Bangkok, and it starts on the 9th, so very excited. But we're bringing it back to the best coast, not the Beast Coast, but the East Coast, with ESL One Raleigh 2025.
Oh yeah.
All right, now too early to say anything about it, but it is happening. North Carolina, the farthest north you can go in the Southeast,
True.
and the second best North Carolina city.
Never been to either Carolina, so I'll take your word for it.
Charlotte's pretty cool. I've only been to the Outer Banks though, so I can't really say. It's just like the beach. It's all that's out there. I mean, it's called the Outer Banks for a reason.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's for the 2025 season though. So that's next year in April.
Okay. Big year.
Peak year.
US.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of
Big year for U.S. events.
a lot of big U.S. events because outside of Dota, we have
Blast.
Blast.
Yeah.
We have the Austin Major.
Yeah, the
The
Austin
Valve
Major.
for CS.
Dude, I forgot about that. Yeah.
That's
Fucking
in
awesome.
June though.
Yeah.
So
It's in June.
we'll try to get out for that. We'll try to get out to some of these North American events. It's in our backyard, so we can definitely make some HotKeys vlog content at some point.
Yeah, I gotta run my my fighting game circuit next year, so definitely
We'll watch
I will be at some places.
We'll have the Praeyter climb to Evo Champion documented.
Hope you shit, bro.
If he gets out of pools, it's a blessing, and that is.
I was so close
the
last
goal.
year.
That's our goal.
So close.
Get Praeyter out of
So
pools.
close.
Make a trend.
One game
Hashtag it.
away, bro. Well, I was one
Get it.
match away, I should say. I wasn't one game. But yeah, one match away.
Too close.
We're making it out.
Yeah.
We're making it out.
So with a weaker transition now.
Please.
Austin, counterstrike.
Mhm.
From before the Austin Major, there is currently the Shanghai Major, which I have admittedly been very behind on because, as an American, China is like 12 hours ahead of me.
Yeah, it's very bad time zone.
So by the time those games start, it is like 3 in the morning.
It's like 3 in the morning. Yeah.
And
every time I've ever had to watch Worlds in China, I hate my life. Yeah.
And listen, Praetor's a more dedicated man than I am. He will watch those games. I might put him on. I'll watch highlights.
I say, to be fair, I watched. You'll probably get a kick out of this. Do you know how I watched Swiss round 1 of the Perfect World Major? Or some of the Swiss rounds.
How did you put that together?
So, I woke up. The only reason I've like known this is going on, like I knew it was going on, but the only reason I like saw it was happening and I watched games. You all right. Talk about this first because the story I'm about to tell will bleed into a point I have for our greater topic.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a funny little tapestry that goes into me watching the Shanghai Major.
I'll keep the Shanghai Major short and sweet.
Yeah.
Because I think we're like an hour in, so we gotta start getting to the point. I'll have to cut.
We wrap the news up. We can move it through. Yeah.
So. It's looking like Vitality and Mongols are fighting for the top spot. Mongols is...
Easily, yeah. Top 2 in elimination stage right now.
Mongols is, from what I heard, favored to win the tournament, but I think Vitality is kind of taken the reins on that one and pushed ahead of them. Very much so. 55-28.
They have a gross round score.
Yeah.
Part of that has to do with, I think, the last set, Mongols won it 2-1 and Vitality 2-0'd their opponent. So obviously that's going to make your round score a bit more skewed. Yeah. But yeah, I do think Vitality has kind of a gross fucking round score right now.
We're hoping for Liquid. I mean, NA Furia is kind of playing decent. Kind of.
I think they're in the running last time I checked. Like they're not, out by any means. Elimination stage is going on. FaZe and Na'Vi on the back end of this, but close behind, which is very surprising. Powerhouse teams. Behind Heroic and Maus of all teams. And then Furia again in the middle. But the ones that we kind of thought that would be towards the bottom kind of are 3 Max, Gamer Legion, Wildcard. I saved Big because Big had a upset over Complexity, knocking them out of the tournament the other day, and I watched that game. And that was kind of nuts. Broke my heart. I know Cloud9 got obliterated.
Cloud9 CS team is just like, whatever.
They got Icy, though, bro. Icy's sick.
Yeah, but that's, like, about it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Like, it's a 5-player game. I don't know, man. Like, you can't...
It makes me sad.
Yeah, you can't...
I wanna rekindle the glory days of them winning the major. Because I watched that live, and it was a big moment.
Oh, it was a big deal.
Yeah, that's what they had. That team has not been able. That was Skadoodle. That was nothing. That was Stewie. Yeah.
Oh, man, what an era.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's CS, and the CS actually bleeds into our bigger point because there is the health of the CS scene and what that means, what it means for greater esports organizations, how to make esports successful, and tournaments, this, that, and the other. So I was recently put on, and this will probably, I don't know if this will set up for your Shanghai story if you want to get that out of the way first.
No, please do you? Okay. I have a give me what you got, and I can go from there because I have a whole spiel.
But it was recently brought to my attention through a video that I watched a couple days ago. I think it came out a few days ago. Yeah, it came out on the 5th. From a YouTuber called Allied Salamander, who put out a short, like 10-minute video on the logistics of tournaments funded by ESL or put on by ESL.
Right.
And this kind of bleeds into the economics of esports video that we referred to the first time we recorded this by Modern MBA. Is that his name?
I believe that's
or something
correct.
like that. He's another YouTuber focusing more on like finance and stuff like that. About like why esports aren't very lucrative, what the problems are in the behind the scenes of how they're run, like from a executive level.
Yeah.
And sure, we love watching esports. That's why we have this channel. That's why we created this whole thing.
Yes.
That being said, esports as a business, and you can look at Disguised Toast as a prime example because he's documenting the entirety of what it means to make an org and make a team for the LCS and the struggles and how much money he's losing just by owning this team and running it and trying to build a roster and a franchise out of it. And it all comes down to sketchy businessmen. That's a TLDR of it. And the shady business practices that go into it, because if we go back to Dota real quick, a lot of these teams like BetBoom, Paravision, they're run by gambling sites, like Russian gambling sites. Team One Win.
Blast is literally sponsored by Stake. I'm pretty sure, right? Like,
Yeah.
all of Blast.
1xBet is a ESL sponsor. Like, it's the gambling sites are one of the biggest reasons that esports have the capital that they do. And am I grateful for it? Yeah, because I love watching it. But at the same time, it's like it's all like hoisted on the back end of very shady business practices. Also, the NIP group just got like merged with a larger company, and their like CEO now is some like trust fund nepo baby like Chinese billionaire that is just like flexing his billions, and he's doing like the rice gum thing.
Oh,
where he's like, look at how smart and successful I am. Boom, money spread. And then he's like, I also own Ninjas of Pajamas, and esports are cool. And it's pretty disingenuous, it seems, but that's besides the point. Point is that it's a money sink because people just don't manage it properly, and it's more of just like a quick pump and dump. Hey, let's get this team. We'll buy out players.
People don't. I feel like people don't realize how hard it is to monetize, right? Like that's been esports. Many of the esports we watch and enjoy were literally built on venture capital money. Like that's like a well-documented thing. The esports bubble and all this shit. Yeah. Everyone's saying it's going to be bigger than sports in the next 10 years.
Back when Mark Cuban, Rick Fox, even Shaq were like buying like all these.
Well, is this whole thing where it's like there'll be more people watching this stuff than sports in the next 10 years.
Twitch was booming. We had Ninja. New Year's Eve.
And it all went down.
Movement. Actually did. I think that was
that guy cursed. That
was like the pop of the esports bubble. Like we had the Fortnite World Cup, and then they did that. That was like it.
Because the whole thing we're talking about, right, is, and I think at its root, you're right, shady business practices, this idea, but I think sometimes, and you see it, it gets talked about a lot in League, and you see it, I think, in other esports too, though, is, like I said, a failure to monetize, right? Like, it's one thing, you have a group of players that you got to pay. You probably have to pay coaches. If you're in one of these franchise leagues, you bought a slot.
Astralis, when they were like a dynasty, hired on a psychologist for their team to help them through games and stuff like that. Talk about their defeats.
Management, sports psychologist. You're fucking, you're paying social media people. You're doing all this. You're running a company, right?
Even then, you have streamers that even aren't players at that point, like.
Yeah,
and usually spread across different games too. So your rosters and.
Assuming you've branched out. So all of these people have to, they have to make some amount of money, right? So you need to generate money to pay them. Then it becomes, okay, well, what does your esports org do to make money? It's a constant meme that gets thrown around in like the League of Legends space, at least in like some of the shows I listen to, where they kind of meme and joke about these orgs where they're like Travis Gafford and people like that. They always talk about how one of the things they hate most about orgs is they hate when an org's identity is we're the org that wins. Because he's like, there's only one org that can win.
Yeah.
So, like, your identity being the org that win means jack shit. Because guess what? You're probably not winning forever. Like, So
And you're probably not winning everything if you're in different games.
no, yeah, I would
Yeah.
say, and you're probably not winning everything. So it's like you need to find a way to like endear these people and then monetize them, right? Like, let's say someone sponsors, sure, you can get like sponsors, right? Uh, if those sponsors are like, they need an audience to pull money from. That's like why they're paying you. And like you see different ways of doing it, and some work and some don't. 100 Thieves, right? The hoodie org jokes are real, but at the very least, if we're talking about a business sense, at least they've found a market, right? Like at least like they have a thing. Which, from what I know, like they had to downsize super huge. They were putting all this money, creating this fucking multi-million-dollar like rocket loan facility out in LA, and then suddenly were hit with like Nate Shot was like, I'm making a game, and also we made an energy drink, and then suddenly we move on, and now Juvie doesn't exist. The game got canceled. They've laid off like half their staff. And this is off someone who seemingly at least found a market, right? In the sense that they were selling this like streetwear brand, right? You look at like Cloud9 or Team Liquid are good examples, I think, of orgs that field multiple rosters.
I was actually
and monetize
looking into Liquid because as like a media group and everything, they're one of the biggest.
Yeah. And I mean they get these great collaborations with like other things. They sell merchandise for their teams. They're doing, they're making things happen in ways, where like they at least are providing a service where it's not just them going to like venture capitalists and being like, hey man, give us money and we'll figure out how to pay you back later.
Well, their parent company,
Like,
the Liquid parent company is Axiomatic, which is their list of notable investors is Magic Johnson, Disney,
Sure.
Michael Jordan, bunch of basketball people.
The thing is, obviously, yes, the money in esports is probably coming from VC somewhere,
And
right?
other-
Rounds of funding, other
And
things.
other like venture
But-
capitals like Hero Capital, Revolution.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
like that. But the thing is, if like the problem is at some point, someone is going to come knocking for a return, right?
Yeah.
That's just how this stuff works. It's how business works. So I think Liquid has done something successful where they're able to generate money. Are they paying their own bills? Probably not. But they're making enough of an impact, getting enough sponsors, generating enough of their own revenue to at least be like, hey, there's money coming in. We're successful in this way. I don't even like, who knows if they're profitable, right? I don't think they've ever gone on record as saying if they are or aren't. Sometimes with this stuff, maybe it's not about being profitable. Maybe it's about breaking even. Maybe it's about getting close to profitable. But clearly, with the way that they are able to expand into other games, maintain all of their current rosters, things like that, clearly Liquid's, by all stretch of the imagination, doing fine financially, right? Like, those guys, a good example, and like for those who don't know, World of Warcraft has the Race to World First that happens kind of with every raid tier that comes out in that MMO. Team Liquid bought a guild. They bought Limit, which was arguably at the time the most successful North American guild when it came to like world first rating.
Yeah.
They bought it. They rebranded them to Liquid Guild. They still have Liquid Guild. They just won the most recent tier, Race to World First in America. Brought it home, baby. W. But Max, who's basically one of the leaders of that guild, who is kind of like the face of Team Liquid Guild as well. He had I forget, it was like an interview, or I was just watching a stream or something, or a video or whatever, where they were talking to him about like Liquid and how they support the race and stuff, and something about like the League of Legends team. And he said a funny thing is, he said, or something, they were like, oh, they were talking about like the relation between like Team Liquid League of Legends and like Team Liquid World of Warcraft. And he brought up the point where he's like, I guarantee you, if push came to shove, they would feed all 20 of our raiders into a machine in order to keep League of Legends like Team Liquid
absolutely.
Esports alive. He's like it's unquestionable. He's like if push like
listen, man, even 100
if it's one or the other, yeah.
Even 100 Thieves was like, hey, if you want a real org, you go to Liquid.
Yeah, like he was like he's like so yeah, he's like yes, absolutely. Do I think that like yes, Team Liquid is obviously supporting us. They support the guild. They're doing the race. It's, doing well for them. They're profitable in whatever way, whatever.
The moment we stop making money.
Yeah. He's like, the moment that like League of Legends is in trouble, that we're getting fed to the beast. Like it's, so we're going back to limit or whatever.
Yep.
But I think that's a product of
just the esports landscape.
But like I said, it also showcases, because like I said, he said that. But the point is, there's still Team Liquid Guild. Like, Team Liquid is well enough to be supporting world first raider group, like as a branded thing, and putting on the race to world first like stream event, like themselves.
And not a lot of
flying
orgs can do that. There's not too many orgs in that space, or they'd even have more than that many teams. They have how many teams do they have?
Liquid has a ton.
Liquid has like a trillion.
They're in Apex. They're in fucking counterstrike. They're in Dota. They're in League of Legends. They have a fucking World of Warcraft guild. Yeah, like
they're in Age of Empires, Apex, Artifact, which I think doesn't exist anymore. It's just
that probably doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Clash Royale, Civ 6, Fortnite, CS2, Dota, Free Fire, Hearthstone, HOTS, which also doesn't exist because their esports died.
Doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. League, obviously. Mobile Legends. They have 2 Mobile Legends teams, actually. They have an Indonesian and a Filipino team. Rocket League, PUBG, StarCraft, Street Fighter, Smash, Tekken.
Yeah, Street Fighter. They have a really great... They picked up Nephew recently. Really good Street Fighter player for Street Fighter 6.
Yep.
Tekken... I don't know if they have a Tekken player, actually.
They might release it. It says Tekken 7 here, so they might release their Tekken player.
Yeah, I would say I don't know.
Rainbow, Valorant, and WoW. Not only do they have a Valorant team, they have 2 Valorant teams, right? Because they have like their VZT
team. They might have a game,
and then they have a Game Changers
team. Yeah, Cloud9 has 2 as well. I know or they did. I don't know if they still are, but yeah, Cloud9 I know had a Game Changers team as well as a normal team.
So,
but yeah, no, like you said, they are expanded out, and I think that is often a product of the fact that they have figured out how to. They're like a merch store.
Yeah.
Right? But like they're not just it's not just a shitty merch store. It's not just buy our jersey and call it a day, They've gone out of their way to like they've got the apparel drops. They've we've entered a recent era that I think is you're seeing it a lot across these big orgs that can garner like names, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the collaboration merch, right? You see Team Liquid has done it with Marvel. They've done it with Naruto. They just did a Demon Slayer drop.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, the Race to World First, they literally had merchandise that was official World of Warcraft merchandise that was sold alongside their Race to World First event with some really cool shit. Like that's the thing is, it's not just like shitty stuff. It's genuinely like very cool things. Like I almost bought. They were selling a keycap set.
The Team Liquid hoodie org, man.
Yeah, weirdly I guess all you have to do is win to beat the hoodie org allegations. You could sell hoodies, but as long as you're winning, no one gets to call you the hoodie org.
Yeah. As long as you treat your fan base with respect,
you're allowed to sell that.
You're allowed to sell as much merch as you want.
Because yeah, the Race World First, like I said, they had a keycap set that was sick as fuck. It was if you've ever seen like the key art of the old like the World of Warcraft Illidan art of like fucking Illidan who's like demon dude like perched up on mountain. It was literally like that picture, but as like a full keycap set. So like cool. Your keycaps on your keyboard just made out like that picture. It looked sick as fuck. Awesome. It was cool as hell. And like they sold, it was official WoW merch that was sold alongside the Race to World First, So not only are they getting these collaborations, they're like timing them well, and like they've got which I haven't used it yet. I know they have like the Team Liquid fan app thing, which I think is a really cool way to like try to engage
really cool.
people in like your community. Yeah, exactly. Like you're
when I was at TI, when it was in Seattle, I had to download the Kraken app because they play at the. I always say Key Arena because it used to be the Key Arena, but it's the Climate Change
Whatever
Arena
it's
now.
Called now. Yeah.
So because they play in the Climate Change Arena along with the Storm, I think their WNBA team. But I had to download that app to like navigate things within the arena, but also to activate stuff for TI. So it was kind of cool they had that integration with like the Kraken app.
No, yeah. I mean, it's like some of that stuff is neat. Like I like I said, I've never looked at like the Liquid app, but I think it's cool that it exists.
It also helps with
right?
engagement for people that are fans of Liquid.
Yeah, no, I would say it helps you talk to other Liquid fans. It's they have the cool because they got like I think his name's Blue is like their horse mascot guy. Like
they have a mascot.
You've never seen Blue?
No, I know they have a mat. Yeah, I'm saying they have a mat like a lot of other orgs.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
That
they have this. They have this cute little horse mascot named Blue, and I know the app. The app has functionality where like you can by watching things or like doing things. You can unlock things to like customize your Blue to like
little avatar. That's cute.
Yeah, like no, exactly. It's cute. It's neat. Like they had a thing where if you watch the Race to World first and you like put in a code on the Team Liquid app or whatever, you would get like a little WoW flag or whatever the fuck.
And it all helps with engagement
on your Blue. Yeah, no, it's
and I was
showing people. It's a good way to like show sponsors, right? I mean, these guys are picking up fucking Honda and like all this stuff, obviously.
Yep.
Like it's a good way to show them, look, this is how much people care about us.
Yeah.
Our product.
An app download is a like concrete number that you can just be like, hey, this many people downloaded our app. This is how many active users we have. Like it's a metric to show the engagement with your brand. And it's great. That's why sports teams do it. Because they're just like, hey, owner and board of directors for our team. Look how many people care about us. Please don't send us to Las Vegas.
Fucking God,
it's the Raiders, man. Feels bad.
I'm talking about the A's.
And the fucking A's, dude.
Oh my God. Brutal.
Criminal.
I can't say that on a live. Never mind. I was about to say a thing that I shouldn't say. It should happen to someone on a recorded thing.
Can't talk about it.
But no, yeah. I think, like I said, Liquid is a very good example of this. I think Cloud9 is also a good example of this to a lesser degree. I actually feel like Liquid is
I know I started off pretty doom and gloom where like esports are corrupt and everything behind it is corrupt.
Yeah.
But there are orgs that are,
here's the deal.
A bit more
we were forged in the fires, right? Yeah. Like anyone who was like, you
and I, we live in we're from a pre Fortnite World Cup era of esports where I make this point a lot when I talk about the early days of
the relegation eras of League of Legends, and like half these teams don't get fucking paid, and you cram 37 people into a house.
Even then, like you look at like the old MLG like gamer houses where you had like 6 15-year-olds playing COD for like 12 hours a day, making like $12 an hour.
Yeah.
And just to like lose a tournament and get nothing for it and then get re-signed and have to move back in across the country with their folks. And it was a whole thing.
There were a ton of people coming in to, like you said, make a quick buck, try to rake in some sponsor money.
Yeah, it was always some like venture capitalist that's like, hey,
stop spending anything. Yeah.
Hey, I have this like online casino, but I also have all this expendable income from it that I'm just gonna buy these 16-year-olds and make them play Halo.
No, yeah, the MLG days and like people just The early days were exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. They were filled with that shit, and it's I don't want to pretend like those people are gone.
Even now, man.
I would say exactly like you. We don't want to pretend those people are gone. Yeah. Bleed is a great example. Bleed, literally just created a team and then just fucking like stopped paying all of their players.
I don't think they stop paying. They just never paid them to begin with.
Yeah, probably
They
just
said
actually
they would pay
just
them,
never paid them.
them, and then their CEO vanished because he's on trial for assault in Singapore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
So yes, these people still exist.
Yeah.
Are there legitimate companies now? Yes, there's a lot of them. We've hit a point where there are legitimate companies, and like I said, some of those companies probably aren't doing the best, or seem to be floundering. Especially now we are in
And you look at where those companies came from. They came from more, I don't want to say like stable esports environments, right? But they you look at, no shade to MLG, but MLG doesn't exist anymore. So I'm gonna throw a little shade. You look at how MLG was run, and a lot of those other, I guess, like Western media, like esports media groups were run, compared to where Liquid and a few of those other orgs are coming from, games like Dota, Warcraft, and StarCraft, where they're a bit more like Korea had OGN and Afrika, and they were broadcasting it legitimately through existing media conglomerates that kind of made it a bit more legitimate for those orgs to start up and get notoriety, as opposed to...
Well, it created a stability, right?
Yeah.
It created a stability within the game that you can latch onto and build a base on. Whereas to where MLG is what the fuck are you supposed to it's... MLG is a little bit closer to the fighting games grassroots approach, but it's also trying to... It weirdly is trying to appear and fund itself as if it is not.
I compare it
as
my traditional sports comparison is like the NBA to the UFC.
Sure, yeah.
Where it's
I see what you're saying.
With the UFC, you have a bunch of just combat sports in general, just weird and kind of shady, but they're structured enough that it makes a spectacle, right? And that's what MLG and that stuff was, where should I just rescaled you? I just grabbed the window by accident. You had the I just broke my train of thought. Holy shit! But you have you have the spectacle of it, and it looks legit.
Yeah,
and it's
supposed to appear legitimate. Yes, your random passerby, you're I can't believe people are putting this much money into video.
But year after year, your favorite players are either not on a team or non-existent anymore, and you're just dude, I just watched this guy make a crazy run last season. Where is he? And it's he's not getting paid. He has to pay
no
tuition.
Money involved.
He has to drop out and. Esports has-beens I hear about where dudes are I was gonna go pro, but the money wasn't there.
No, I mean you're seeing it. I mean it's crazy to say it. You see it now, and
I was so good at COD. I was on FaZe.
You're seeing it even across. Like I said, the word esports winner gets thrown around now a lot because obviously there's economic state of the world, less sponsor money going around, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're seeing it as far as League of Legends now. You're seeing people who are in the tier 2 scene for League of Legends be listen, man, either a team's got to pick me up or I gotta start, fucking looking for
send out applications, man.
Yeah,
I am on Indeed.
Yeah, no, straight up. But to go back a little bit to what you were talking about, it is funny you bring up OGN and stuff, because did you see the news about the English broadcast for the Chinese league in League of Legends, the oh my god, why
LPL?
The LPL English broadcast, how they basically Riot was hey, and maybe one of the shittiest PR announcements I've ever seen.
I saw something about it cross my dash, but I didn't.
So basically, they said, hey, the LPL no longer has a dedicated broadcast, and no longer English broadcast. Yeah. There's no dedicated LPL English broadcast. Now the LPL will be shown entirely through co-streamers, essentially, for the English broadcast, right?
That's not the worst thing ever, but it's also
so here's the deal. I'm so far removed from it, but if you read the way that they structured the announcement, it was quite, especially because if the history of the LPL English broadcast, it was kind of very much a bunch of people banding together to make that shit, and people who just gave a shit and wanted to be hey,
Like, this
English
is some of the
viewers,
top
check out
level of
this
league.
fucking scene. Yeah, like look what's happening out here. Look at these people. Let us tell you their story.
The same way that you
like,
have a, what is it, KPL, right? That's the Korean one.
LCK. Yeah. Exactly, where and like, you know, a lot of this stuff is like kind of built around the OGN era and like shit you're talking about like that, right? But like, yeah, the announcement, if you read it, they're basically like, yeah, man, we decided, you know, you don't want that shit. You want these fucking co-streamers, right? And it's like, it was so, to me, you'd have to read it to see exactly what I'm
They
saying.
try to like convince you that you wanted them to stop.
It came off as so disrespectful to the fucking history that is like the LPL English broadcast.
And
like,
those casters, because a lot of those guys were like,
no, 100%.
So
like
hard
literally
to
just
get that
disregarding those
get to that
people.
position.
Like, yeah, like came off very shitty. Yeah. But that's old news. But like you said, all that stuff is founded, including that broadcast, like the LPL English broadcast, stuff like that. It is all founded out of the OGN type era stuff. And, you know, the thing that those guys really got right, if you like think about it, was like, so there's like an extra step to get in the door there. They, from the get-go, right? Like, what did you have to do to watch OGN if you were like a fan of StarCraft or like a fan of that? You had to subscribe.
Yeah.
Right from the jump. Throw down money, fund this thing, and you're like, okay, yeah, I want to.
Or you have to find like a torrent link through forums.
Which, like, you know, whatever. That's its own thing, right? But like you're saying, those guys, the foundation was there because they out the gate monetized well, in the sense that they were like, hey, you want to see this? Pay money.
Yep.
And once you have that established, you know, because that's not something that I think you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Like, if you started broadcasting this shit for free, you can't suddenly turn around and be like,
people for it.
Actually, we need $5 a month.
Which was like the whole thing
yeah.
with early Twitch when it was still like JTV, right?
Yeah.
You like, I don't know, people like were streaming these games, and before there was like a subscription model really set up for it for content creators on the platform, it was you were just watching.
Back during Justin TV. Yeah, no, 100%.
Just watching people play games, and
then Day 9 was the first person to get a sub button.
Shout out Day 9, loops all the way back to StarCraft. Fact. You know.
No, exactly.
I mean, that's what people were like on JTV
no,
for.
You're right.
You were watching
exactly.
StarCraft.
That's why you're doing it. You were watching that, or like World of Warcraft, like legitimately,
and
like, you know, like.
So, but like, it's weird with that because it's like, yeah, you're supporting the scene, right? So Day 9 getting it, and especially in that era of like OGN, JTV, Day 9 getting it was like, hey, you're supporting StarCraft still, right? You're supporting StarCraft content in your region, right? And
there is something to be said about, like, if we're gonna start like working things backwards a little bit to take like a step away from the overarching business stuff about like good business sense and like things like that. These businesses are built on the backs of communities and a scene, right? Essentially, like all these games have a scene, and that at its core is like, without that there is nothing. You can't sell people on a League of Legends narrative if or like on your League of Legends team if nobody gives a fuck about League of Legends.
That's why Arcane
right?
did so much better than Dragon's Blood.
Yeah, to a degree. I totally see what you're saying.
More people care about the world of League, more people care about the aesthetics and everything of League than they do about Dota. Simple as probably the biggest Dota fan between the two of us.
Sure. No,
you know?
I totally get what you're saying.
Arcane was better.
Yeah. And I think there's more to it on top of that, but you're right that there is like a semblance there for sure. Like 100%. I do think, generally speaking,
and in that same breath, it helps build that scene.
No, yeah. As long as you can support the people coming in from it, 100%. It does. It makes a difference. It helps build your scene. That community stuff is it's very important. And like a good example, so like you said, this actually links exactly to what I was talking about with the way I watched the with Shanghai
PGL?
Major. And
PWE, sorry.
Yeah, Perfect World. Yeah. Because I do think we exist in an era where there are sort of almost weird ways to like in some ways cash in on niche audiences. And you know, I say cash in and that sounds maybe a little dirty, but like I mean that in like a just a monetization way. I'm not shading anyone for doing it. Because there are good ways to cash in.
We all got to make money. All right.
No, yeah, we're making and consuming content. All that stuff has like a cost.
Right.
So the way, like, because I consider myself a very casual Counter-Strike fan in the sense that when there are majors on, shit like that, like the major, I'll try to watch. I'm not someone who's following minute to minute. I'm not following month to month, but I'm checking in and I enjoy it when I see it. Same way I consume Dota. We've talked about this before. I love watching the International every time the International comes on. I think it's very fun to watch the International. Love it to death. I am a much more hardcore follower when it comes to like fighting games or League of Legends, where I'm week to week. Every week I'm watching LCS. Every time there's an Apex event, I'm watching it. I'm following Apex. So the way that I think you have to grab someone like me who's casually interested in this stuff, but maybe isn't jumping at the chance to watch every single event, is through weird ways, which brings me to the Perfect World Shanghai thing. So we're gonna take a walk here for a second. I'm gonna once again manually break my VTuber contract.
It's been broken the last like 2 episodes.
I know. I guess what? Yeah, we can't build it yet.
Days.
We're pushing it farther off. Yeah, we can't push it off, but there's a reason. So recently there is a these VTubers, some of them are independent and some of them have companies, right? These like companies that essentially
Hollow Live sponsoring the Dodgers.
Right. Fuck yeah. W shit. There is one that exists out of Japan, which most of them do, but whatever, called VSPO. So VSPO recently, as in like within the last year, launched its first EN line, like so English VTubers, right? I believe there's like 5 of them. Prior to that, they were pretty. Prior to that, they were all, I think, some of them were Chinese, most of them were Japanese.
Okay.
So this company is an interesting niche. The niche of this, like a VSPO, like the thing they're kind of built their talent around, the people they're acquiring, is all of them are high-level players in usually an FPS game. Preds and Apex, high-end, like Valorant,
Rainbow Six, Counter-Strike, COD.
Not so much Rainbow Six, but I think that's a product of them being Japanese more so than like, yeah. But like they literally a part of like their audition process when they bring people in is they're like, you need to be like minimum rank in like these games, like because that is like part of the identity of the thing. So they have an EN group now. So obviously this catches my eye because they're like VSPO EN. And on that group, you've got Arya, who's a really good Apex player. You've got a few of the girls who play like Valorant at a high level. You got one that's like pretty. I think she's a high-rated like League of Legends player.
Gotta break the shooter thing though. She's league.
Huh? Well, I think they at some point expanded out to esports in general.
Okay.
Where it's about high-level esports play.
Yes.
There's like even kind of to give you an idea of how seriously they follow this rank mandate. Like you are given a bonus apparently within the company for maintaining like a high rank. So like sometimes they will like stream and they call them like homework streams. And like what those streams are literally them grinding ranked to like maintain.
Like
diamond,
if they're
like
GM, and they hit challenger, they'll get a bonus.
Yeah, so it's like they call them homework screens where it's like, okay, I need to maintain diamond, or like I need to see if I can go from diamond to masters, or like something like that in whatever game they're like very good at.
Yeah.
Like that's how like big the cultural like game aspect is in this company.
That's pretty cool.
But
I'm into that.
Yeah, it's sick. And so the one that has caught my eye from the EN one that I've been watching, her name is Remia. And her little specialization, and they play stuff outside esports games too, because obviously they're VTubers, so they get their little variety licks in and stuff. And some of them do music here and there, and some don't. They're less of a music thing, and but they do it from time to time. Yeah. Remia, her 2 things in VSPO EN are she's really big on Counter-Strike, specifically CS2, and she plays Valorant like a
Imagine
decent
she's a
amount
1.6 player.
Yeah. I don't know how far back she goes. She's clearly good. She knows her shit. So my guess is she's at least been playing since Go. It's not like a CS2 thing. She's definitely got like reps in. She's talked about like she's played at LANs both competitively and like friendly. Like she's been out. She's been in the scene. She's someone who's been playing Counter-Strike for a hot minute. And she the way I watched the Swiss rounds was because she was restreaming them. Like she was watch partying them. Yeah. Like she was co-streaming it and like she was talking about players and like she was talking about her pick'ems and like all this shit. And I learned more about Counter-Strike competitive and watched more than I have for any event that wasn't straight up a major. And how they broke through to me is like a totally community grown thing of like, hey, you're into these quirky anime girls. This one's fucking watching a Counter-Strike major because they really like Counter-Strike. And now you're going to do that. And I was like, yes, you're correct. Sign me up. I'm in. And yeah, I've watched more Counter-Strike in the last 2 months than I maybe have in like my entire life. And it's all because this fucking VTuber is a sick Counter-Strike player enjoyer. Like she... Listen, I cannot stress this enough how
Pop Smoke once said, welcome to the party.
Yeah, and it's like it's bro, and like to give you an example of like how real this shit gets, because it's just like, oh well, when she streams Counter-Strike, she's not even streaming premium, bro. She's streaming Face It games. She has her Face It ELO up.
That's what really matters, man. You gotta be Face It 10.
No. That's what I'm saying. This isn't bullshit. You know, this isn't like, oh yeah, we're playing Counter-Strike.
We're just gonna run Premiere.
We're playing Face It. We're in there, like
making calls, throwing lineups.
She is in that shit. She is playing Counter-Strike ass Counter-Strike. She's Face It level 9, which apparently like
That's
10 is max.
Nuts.
Yeah,
Face It level 9 is nuts.
Yeah, she recently hit 9. Like
I've got a friend that's like Face It 7. Right, and he's pretty insane. So Face It 9 is
she
like
recently hit 9. Yeah, like
9 and 10 are like you can be signed.
I hear
to
10
an
is like preem. Yeah, I hear 10 is literally like max rank.
I don't know if there's like a day and night difference between 9 and 10 because I know like some of the higher ranks is like, hey, you're 9, but that's like the max that like a diamond player in another game will like get to.
Sure, okay.
And then like to break through that, you need to be like upper echelons.
Really
like,
big barrier.
Yeah, I don't know the spread because it's across 10 ranks, so I don't know what the graph looks like. But yeah, 10 is like. You are a professional.
The reason I say it is just, but that is the example, right? Like this is how invested this VTuber group is in competitive, the competitive aspect is they have brought in a Face It level 9 CS player as like part of their English branch, and this is the example, in my opinion, of that shit working. Because like, guess what? I watched the first round of a fucking Shanghai Swiss major that I probably would have just looked at the highlights of at some point, you know? And I was watching the early shit of like, you know, because of the fact that, hey, this fucking, the quirky anime girl's watching it, so you're watching it too. There is something to be said about the community. And like you said, we're talking about it with like the Liquid Blue app stuff. Like it's not just like there is a community aspect that you have to foster for this stuff in weirder ways because we talked about this before, you don't have the geolocation thing going.
Right.
You know, we as an esport, like esports in general, we've tried it before.
Kind of.
I think almost every attempt at it has been botched or bad.
Overwatch charged way more than even like traditional sports teams were charging to foster rosters in your city.
I think I said this last time, but it bears repeating because this bears repeating because to me it is one of the biggest examples of how fucking bullshit this stuff was. Let's look at the Overwatch League teams, right? You had the London Spitfire. London Spitfire was Cloud9, so you had an NA org fielding a London-based team that the roster was entirely Korean.
How could anyone, like,
What the fuck?
How could people in the UK relate to that? How could fans of C9 in NA relate to that?
Botched on all fronts. And you know what? It didn't get any better. Because you know what? We had were they the Miami Mayhem?
Florida Mayhem.
Or the Florida Mayhem.
Florida Mayhem. But it was based
they were like
out of Miami Heat's parent group or whatever had bought it.
So whatever. Florida Mayhem. Once again, I believe that was Misfits, right?
Yeah, it was Misfits,
the ones
which was like a Dutch or Danish team or something like that.
So once again, we have now an EU org fielding a fully European team,
and then they sold them
based
for Koreans.
out of Florida. How? I'm a Florida native. How the fuck am I ever supposed to get invested in that?
And they play in LA. They don't even play in Florida.
And and they play in LA on top of everything else.
They didn't even play. They promised that they would play in the cities and they would travel, and then they would have.
Well, they were like supposedly building to that. Like, that was the whole idea. Is like eventually we'll get there, because guess what? No one can get in on the fucking ground floor because it's so nonsensical.
Yeah,
it's bullshit, and you don't even have like. I think the fancy industry term for them, right, is like activations.
Right.
You're not even going out of your way to do like activations in these fucking home cities where it's like
not a single Misfit or Mayhem event happened in Miami or in Florida. Not even in Orlando. No. I would have gone to Orlando. I'm 3 hours out from Orlando. I could have just shown up. It would have been great.
You have people fostering this stuff like on their back, on their own. You know, I talk about the dude when we were talking about last time. We were talking about like 100 Thieves and like them fucking, you know, they're absolutely shameful AMA about like getting, you know, their kind of downsizing of their league team and stuff.
We've memed this like 3 times this episode.
Yeah, I've brought up the David Shynock, the dude who calls into Hotline League all the time. He's a big like 100 Thieves fan who like really puts on for that org in New York City. And that dude's going out of his way to try to foster like watch parties for their league games and stuff, specifically league games because he follows League of Legends. And it's like that kind of stuff. Like, sure, yes, I think it is cool, and I'm glad people do that on like a local level. Right? You know, that's as someone who is primary FGC. The fighting games are how I got into competitive games in general, like not just esports. That's like they are what kind of opened my door to like, oh, there's a higher level of competitive play across all games. Fighting games is like my start of that. So obviously, yes, I come from like a scene that is like very much about like you are built on the back of like your locals and like, you know, the community,
your
the
region.
FGC. Yeah. Like we're esports now with these pro tours and stuff, but like we are still like very grassroots in the grand scheme of things.
Like my introduction was through free to play, the Dota like documentary, and then when I got into like the FGC, it was admittedly through Smash.
That's how I got into. Yeah. No, I got in through Melee. I got in through the Melee documentary.
I would go to weeklies and like with a buddy of mine that would play in them. Shout out to Stay wherever you're at.
Hell yeah.
South Florida's best duck hunt. Stand by that.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Listen, man, he made top 8 by beating Dath. And that was like
W shit, man. This is a strong region, bro.
Talking to town for like a week, and that was it.
Yeah. Nah, it's real, man. Like so like I know all about like the grassroots engagement stuff, but in my opinion, like if you are in fucking org, why are you not especially if you're an org that is being geolocated, right? Like cuz that's what the Overwatch League, that's what Owl was like attempting to do, was like geolocate this shit.
Yeah.
Why are you not activating in the place that is designated as your location? Like, why are you not like, hey,
Vitality,
Misfits,
we were talking about earlier in CS, has the V Cafe in Paris. They're a French org, so they have community outreach. A friend of mine went and is
smart.
a huge Vitality fan now because he went during Zybu's re-signing earlier this year.
Sick as fuck.
Yeah,
no, I mean, you're right.
He's all in on Vitality now.
That's dope. That's cool. Like as an org, you should be going out of your way to be like I said, especially if you're fucking Misfits and you're, you know, the Florida Mayhem is playing a playoff game or whatever. You should be finding a local, like I said, pick a central point, you know, pick Orlando. Fuck it. I don't care.
Yeah.
We rented out X thing in Orlando. Misfits fans come through, buy a ticket,
I
hang
think
out
they
with other
had-
fucking Florida Mayhem fans.
I
and
think
shit,
they
you know?
did
Like,
do, but this was through like Overwatch League, where you could watch the games at the arena that the teams were supposed to play out of or something like that. Maybe
I mean,
maybe I'm
sure.
misremembering. Maybe that was like a fucking pipe
if they
dream.
did
But
that, if they did that, sick. Like, you know, I agree
but
that
you
like
could go to like
you
the
know that
AAA
that's
and
just
watch like a Mayhem game or something like that.
that's just good sense, right? Like that's the whole point. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing that, fine. But like the flounder to me in Owl is like I said, that's what I was talking about. I'm a Florida person. I was born into a family that is very into football. So I've been
Dolphin
raised.
fan.
I'm adult, and I still am. You know, here I am, 28 years of age. That team hasn't performed well in football. They performed okay,
And
but like they haven't been like a Super Bowl contending team for I don't know 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
Like yeah, and guess what? I'm out there saying they suck, but I'm still a Dolphin fan. Like and it's just that's because geolocation, born and raised by my family. So yes, I am
think-
inherently that is instilled in me. Esports doesn't have that. It doesn't exist. We can't cash in on that.
With
Like,
esports, I've thought long and hard about this because I do enjoy LANs. You and I both do. We've been to a couple in our time, and we think that the experience is crucial to fostering a scene.
100%. If you can't physically if you've never been to a live competitive event for any game, like I said, I've mostly been to fighting game ones. I know you went to the international, and you've been to fighting game ones too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the energy of a bunch of people, it's that sporting event energy. I can't describe it in like any other way. Like there is a spirit there. There is a universal understanding, and like that everyone is here supporting the same thing and is freaking out over the same stuff. And it's totally different. It's so good. It's like electric.
Yeah, my girlfriend, who could give two shits less about Dota, who I dragged to the international with me, was just like, yeah, this is like being at a football game. Like this is like
it's exactly the same.
It's the same vibes. Like she was into it. We cheered on GG for a bit. When they fucking beat up Asia Ray in the first 5 seconds of a match.
Iconic clip.
One of the greatest moments in Dota
One of my
history.
favorite esports. Yeah, if we ever have like downtime, we could definitely try to assemble like some of the greatest esports moments
The
of all time.
HotKeys clip show.
Yeah, the Azure Ray coach talking about how he doesn't like get the draft while his team is getting fucking murdered at level 1 behind him. It's like 10 out of 10.
Oh man, I was in those stands, man. I was sitting in the Asia race section too because I couldn't find my way around the arena. So it was like, we were in like the nosebleeds, and it was like Asia Ray fans were like the first couple rows, and then like right behind us where like the standing bit was like the rest of the NA people, because all the Chinese fans sat down and stood there all day for like 12 hours. It's nuts.
They do.
But yeah, dude, we were screaming USA, crushing beers because they're mid laners from the US. GG's a European team, by the way.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it was great. It was magical.
No, exactly. Like that energy is great. Same thing. This most recent combo breaker trip I took, we brought a bunch of people who like are very insanely casual, don't really watch anything. Hell, didn't even play half the fighting games.
They'll mash buttons from time to time if we beg them to.
Yeah, like they're aware, but like they're not following anything. They don't know shit. And they were. I remember like fucking one of our friends, his girlfriend, she's like girl emotional, if you get what I'm saying. You know, like she's one of those types.
She cries at movies.
And she got exactly. And she got like a little teary-eyed when like AK won, because like he just like went from like AK, if you saw his combo breaker pop off, the dude went from like stoic as shit through like all the games he won, and he freaked the fuck out. My man like leaped out of his chair.
You have to see that storyline like live too. Like you get to live that with them.
Yeah, and like she got all like emotional about it, and like everyone, like I said, they don't follow these games. They're out there watching people go to last hit last round. They're popping off, like because it's just the energy, man. It's that in-person energy. You feel it. You feel the crowd. Like I remember like the first time I got hooked on it was I went to CEO back in 2021, right after COVID. It was the first CEO like back in person post COVID.
Yeah.
And that was the first like big tournament I'd ever been to. And I remember we didn't even stay the whole time for top 8. So I only got to see the beginning, like some of the Tekken 7 top 8. And I remember Anakin was going on a run. He was like the last USA player in the bracket.
On stream. I didn't go live, but I went.
Yeah. So he was going on a fucking run, and I just remember he went to last round against oh my god, who was it? Was it Don? It was one of the Pakistan players. I forget which. Last round, and he wins, and the entire crowd flipped shit. We're talking like jump out of chairs, USA chants out the back, and like it's just that moment where I was like, oh, I gotta keep doing this. You know, like it felt so good that like I was just like, I gotta keep coming out like every time. Cause yeah, it's magical. And people, orgs, like we're saying, you should be tapping into this. I'm not saying that you need to sell out a fucking arena for every little game.
But what I think the way esports now, like the landscape of esports as is now, is too international, right? So it's hard to geolocate for these larger
100%.
orgs.
And it's why I don't think it works. I agree with you.
I think
don't
it relies
think
on tier 2. I think it can, but you have to geolocate tier 2.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
fighting games are a tier 2 esport. That's not a dig at fighting games. That is based on viewership and everything. Yeah. It's very grassroots. So you can geolocate fighting games, right? And they do, right? We have Tampa Never Sleeps. You have things like Evo and Vegas. Like those are staples where they are. And they attract large crowds to there because it's their
the prestige of the event.
The prestige of the event, right? Like
I think ours, the geolocation stuff to me is less. I mean, so look at it. I don't think it's so much a tournament thing, but you're right in the sense that because we are so grassroots inherently, the FGC, right?
Like imagine if we
I do think it creates
two challengers, like league challengers in NA.
I agree with that. I think you're correct.
You give cities a team, and then those players compete to make it to tier 1 international, which is like the Olympics, right? Our basketball teams compete domestically.
I've said before, I definitely think, you know, like you look at like some of the top tier 2 teams in League of Legends, and you know you've got University of Maryville, you know, like all these college, like literal
already kind of geolocated.
Yeah. They're already geolocated because they're literally, you know, they're fielding like college teams or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, you know, I'm not going to fucking Maryville College. I don't know what their situation is.
Right.
I would assume if they're smart, there are ways on campus to go watch these fucking, you know, the whenever fucking
by us, FAU
College of Maryville,
an esports arena.
Yeah, I know. I know FAU has the esports arena now, where assumedly you could do the same thing. You're 100% right. I do think stuff like that could happen. And obviously you're not going to fly these fucking college kids out to play a LAN for everything they're doing during the season. But like, I do think you could select a college for the finals of these kinds of stuff, or, you know, like, because the tier 2 season has a finals tournament the same way the tier 1 does. Why? Yeah, I do think that these finals should be played like in like small arenas and around colleges, stuff like that.
And larger orgs can sponsor them because they have a larger footing in esports. So, hey, Liquid sponsored this tournament circuit, right? And now they're sponsoring the finals. And I resonate with Liquid, or I resonate with C9 as NA orgs. And they're hosting something in NA that isn't just out in LA because that's where they all are, because Riot Arena. We're going to focus on League real quick just because it's the most structured league out of all the esports, I think.
Well, it is the most structured, but it's also like
the most viewed as well. It's esports charts.
Well, it's the most structured because of the difference in mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like League is entirely in house. The esport is literally maintained by the people who make the game.
Right.
Like, you know, it's
So but they would have the facilities to make a tier 2 thing like this happen theoretically, right? Not
right.
But yeah, like Liquid could have a stake in it and be like, hey, sponsored by Team Liquid Academy or Team Liquid whatever, because they don't have teams anymore. But
yeah,
and then people would be like, oh, Liquid's hosting this event in collaboration with Collegiate Star League, right? If that's still a thing, right? And now it's like a university, like varsity league that they jump around each state or each university from this list of partnered universities, and they travel varsity games for league, right? Stuff like that could be done, and because a larger org is attached to it, it would draw more eyes to it, because a lot of people don't pay attention to tier 2 and the collegiate scenes and things like that as well. So
my contention, if we're going to talk about tier 2 briefly here, specifically when it comes to like League of Legends tier 2, my contention with that whole thing is like, yes, the whole thing, the whole idea around the kind of the fall of tier 2 esports in League of Legends, and like, you know, the failure of the challenger scene and like all that stuff. Basically, it all boils down to the same thing, right? Where they're like, oh, it's too much money for orgs to field these teams. There's not enough incentive for them to make the money back. Yada, yada. Not enough people watch tier 2. My point that I like to bring up, and I'm not the only one who brings this up, it gets talked about a lot if you like follow the discourse around like League of Legends esports. You know, I'm not the first one to say this. I won't be the last one. Viewership for a tier 2 league should not matter. The importance of the tier 2 league is it is fostering local talent that then moves up and becomes a part of your tier 1 league.
Right.
We cannot have a North American league where we aren't getting any North American talent. We can't just import Korean players
and call
all
it
the
NA.
time. Yeah, you need something, someone, somewhere fostering North American talent.
Right.
That's what your tier 2's for. So to say like, oh, well, we can't field the tier 2 org or tier 2 team because, like, you know, we're not making, you know, the sponsors don't care about the viewership.
Yeah.
It's not a monetary thing, man. It's about maintaining the health of your game.
But also,
it's about making sure there are new players coming in.
Don't care about that. They're so disconnected because esports are for a niche group, right? It's for gamers.
You're right, but at the same time, like at this point, like if we're talking about, because remove us from that a little bit. Let's talk, because we're talking about League of Legends specifically.
Yeah.
This esport has been around for a long time, and like obviously it has moved and shifted. It's been around what, 10 years, more than 10 years,
more than
I think
10
at
years.
this point.
Almost, we're approaching 15 years.
Yeah. So exactly what you're talking about. It's been around 15 years. Obviously, they just restructured the entire global circuit for obvious reasons. In order to maintain the health of the region, they had to shrink certain things, do whatever. Combine this, that, and the other thing. You know, we talked about that.
We talked about the LTA.
Obviously, the LTA, you know, all this stuff. But my point is, so like if you're like Liquid and, you know, like we said, you're doing fine enough to be like, hey, fucking... And Riot, you know, Riot pays, you know, like if you are a part of the LTA, you are getting a set amount of, like, your org gets a set amount of money from Riot every year. It's part of the contract. Yep. You know, if you are a franchise thing, they're giving you X amount of money. You get, I believe the revenue split thing happens now where, like, you know, you could certain on the team emotes and like stuff like that, which is another great way to monetize on game specifics, by the way. More of these orgs need to be talking to their fucking games and trying to come to terms on the, you know, in-game items that represent the team. I don't know why this is so hard. Like, I don't know why so little games do this.
Why is it just
and just
the world's
revenue
winners
split the
get
team?
skins? There should be pretty basic recolors for the teams, I feel like.
Chromas I think is the way to go. I totally understand the point of like, we
chromas.
cannot do a full team skin line for every fucking league as they win, because yes, there's a lot of art and like design stuff
What
that goes
Dota
into
does,
that.
you get a custom TP animation that shows the logo of the team. You have the team logo next to your name in game.
Right.
Maybe you'll get a loading screen and stuff like that.
That's actually the thing that I think is crazy, that like they don't do more, and they used to do it, which is why are they not selling the team logos as player icons, and then like, you know, so you get like, in a
They
league.
do it in
There are
Valorant.
borders now.
You can get the
Well, I mean, yeah.
esports bundles with the classic skin, gun buddy.
No, yeah. For League of Legends, it'd be the same thing. You get yourself an esports, like the team logo is the portrait. You get a custom banner around your thing in the loading screen that's like custom to that team. And then maybe if you want to go as far, do the chromas. Like, for you get even if it's just like a base skin chroma, right? Where it's like, you get base skin for the champion. You get a base skin, the C9. I'm playing Lucian. I got C9 colored fucking Lucian, like whatever.
Yeah. It's like
all this
like
stuff.
an all-white Lucian with some blue accents and a C9 logo on his gun. Call it a day.
And I mean, and you saw it done. Street Fighter 5. I'm shocked that they haven't done this for fucking 6. Street Fighter 5 had the thing where like, the loading screens were literally advertisements for Capcom Pro Tour, and people memed on it because it was shitty, but it was funny. Where there was like a color scheme for every base character in Street Fighter 5, where they would just throw the Capcom Pro Tour logo somewhere on the character, and it looked dumb, but like it was there.
They did it,
and like they did it, and they would every year at the start of the Pro Tour they would do what they called the like Pro Tour pack, which usually included two like outfits, like actual outfits for. Half the time it was Chun-Li and Cammy and Ryu.
Overwatch League did the same thing.
Well, yeah. And basically what it was is if you bought that outfit pack, the Capcom Pro Tour pack, you would get those customs for those characters, and like half of the money went into the Capcom Pro Tour prize pool. Why are we not doing this to fund prize pools?
Compendiums.
But yeah.
Bring it back.
Compendiums is all this stuff. And you can do it, like you said, across all games. This is not something that's genre specific. You can do it in fighting games through like character costumes. You can do it in FPSs through gun skins, banner skins. In League of Legends, you can do banners, profile pictures. You can do load screens, like you said, like
chromas.
Chromas, like the most base level. Like I said, I'm not asking for a fucking full custom like world skin for every champion winner.
Even like a map
I understand
thing,
that's unrealistic.
Right? How they changed the map for Worlds and they have like the Worlds logo in mid lane. You can do that for the team. Just have the team logo on the floor. I'm on the C9 map.
Even then, like, it is baffling to me that we don't do this like more often. To just further fund these prize pools and further fund these teams, even, that's another revenue split that they can add to their fucking books.
Yep.
And it just, I feel like it fucking goes ignored, which is crazy. And like I said, what does that lead to? That leads to like going back to our tier 2 conversation I was talking about before with League of Legends. You've got all these ways to monetize, yet instead we're cutting tier 2 because it doesn't make enough money. Tier 2 shouldn't have to make money. You need players to play the game.
Yeah.
If you are out of players to play the game, it doesn't fucking matter what makes money and what doesn't.
Your pros are going to scout people through like pubs and be like, hey, this guy kicked my ass in like 3 games. We should assign him. Right? Is that what it's going to come down to? Because...
are we going back to like, guy is good in solo queue, get him on the team?
And then he plays on the team and he sucks because he's just a solo queue warrior? Yeah, right? We see this in Dota a lot because Dota doesn't have like a structured like academy league or tier 2 league as much.
It's a much more, and this goes to what I was talking about before, the difference in mentality between Valve and Riot, right? Where Riot runs all of their own esports pretty much in-house for the most part. Obviously, they've taken a little bit more of a lean-to-back approach for things like TFT and even Valorant to a certain degree outside of like VCT. But like, they're very in-house. They're very like, we do it, we're going to do everything, fuck it. As to where Valve is very much the opposite. They're like, we don't, hands off, bro. Y'all handle it.
Which is where a little bit of beef with ESL comes in, because ESL, at least in Counter-Strike, has they've kind of made an ecosystem, some of the Riots, where if I may go this tirade real quick, they have what is called the Lavore Agreement, and it's in French, and I'm butchering it, but it's a made-up language, so who cares?
Yeah.
Shout out the French. Which is essentially, they have, ESL has partner teams, and those partner teams have permanent slots within the EPT, the ESL Pro Tour.
Right.
right? And though at the end of each tour or whatever, they can be voted on if they're staying or going.
Okay.
Now this is great because it solidifies teams and it creates a consistent pro circuit that you can look forward to and engage with and follow consistent
the whole
storylines.
reason Riot got rid of relegation
Right.
all those years ago, right?
Right.
To assure teams that they were not going to lose a slot.
The problem is, and I'm copying the notes of Allied Salamander here because this is from his video pretty much directly. So go watch it if you want the rest of it. But it creates a problem with the competitive integrity because the example that he used was EG, and their Counter-Strike team was not great. So the idea was your team would be voted on if they needed to be rotated out, if they lost, if they came in last in groups at like 3 out of 4 pro tours or pro leagues or something like that. Or at 6 tournaments, sorry. If you came last in your group at most like 6 tournaments, you would be put up to be voted out. Right? Now, if the teams didn't want to vote you out, then you would stay and the circuit would continue as normal. So this created a ecosystem where better teams were just like, well, we're just going to keep winning because we get paid for winning by ESL. We'll just keep these bad teams here so we can just keep stomping them. And then we could field better rosters and keep crushing them, or, you know, line our pockets, pay for more content, whatever. Right? And like a team like Eternal Fire, who was doing great in the same season he was talking about. Again, this is pretty much copying from his video, but it's relevant to this point. Was doing well, but they didn't get the slot in the ESL like agreement because they just why would you want a good team to be in there and start beating you? You know, so this is like the problem with the relegation or dropping relegation. Wait, no. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about like the eliminate, like the idea of like a permanent slot.
Yeah,
is what you're talking about.
This is part of the problem with it because, or at least when it's in control by teams rather than by like a board of like a third party, because it removes the competitiveness of your league and it franchises players from watching because like you know the outcome. Right, and it goes back to the
disincentivizes it. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, because it breaks it down where it's like, as someone in North America and longtime EG fan, they won TI. They're my goats. Mm-hmm. Watching them lose in Counter-Strike would be miserable, and watching them lose every season because they don't want to swap in a different team. Or just because the better teams are just
they have no desire to spend money on a better roster. They also field less options because they don't have self-fulfilling.
They don't even get the money to field a better roster because they keep losing.
Yeah,
so it's like
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah,
where
I just have to watch them lose and hate it every time, and I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, you're the bad team, so no one actually wants to play for you. You have less players who like you can get a contract with. You also inherently get less money because you're losing a lot. So it's a self-fulfilling.
So that's where that's where it kind of breaks down too, because so
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go. You go ahead.
Because in tier 2, right, you wouldn't really have that because tier 2 it's
more of an open circuit.
It's more of an open circuit, right? It's for people. It's like the development leagues in sports, right? High school and college players get fielded out through combines and other means.
Yeah, the combine system,
right?
And then you can, in theory, you can play on high school and college. You can even play on a travel team, right? And then eventually, the combine comes around. Yeah,
you're put onto a development league. Development league teaches you how to play at the high level on a team, and then from there, you are then put into tier 1. Right? And tier 2 is, hey, there's these pub stars. They're crushing games, right? Yeah. Let's put them on a team. Let's hire them. Hey, everybody, this is your new team. This is your mid laner. This is whoever. Goal of this is you're going to play. You're going to get paid. You are going to develop the skills that it takes to, if you so choose, and if you want to take this seriously, play at the highest level on the world stage at an international level.
Yeah.
And if they geolocate that, that's one thing, right? It incentivizes people because now it makes people from those cities want to engage with it. It makes people like, we'll use Florida for Floridians. We will use that as an example. If there's a kid in Miami that is nuts on the stick and he's crazy at League, he doesn't use sticks, I know, but
yeah.
Then he will be incentivized to play for the Miami Tier 2 team because, hey, I'm a pub stomper. I got put on this team. It's sick. I represent my city. The whole reason why Dwayne Wade went back to the Bulls before he retired was because he's from Chicago and wanted to play on the Bulls. It was a lifelong dream of him, so he went and did that for a season, represented his city. Right?
You're right. No, I mean, there are ways to tap into this stuff.
So.
I mean, because you're right. You bring up an interesting point about the ESL, like the thing you're talking about with like the ESL and this whole idea of like them not voting off the losing team.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a little team that now is no longer with us, but was for a very long time. We call it the Immortals problem in LCS. So when League of Legends created franchising, when we franchised back in, was that like 2019, 2018, something like that?
Yeah.
Whenever the league franchised, right? They eliminated relegation as a thing. 10 teams would essentially buy into League of Legends esports.
Didn't the LCS start before that? Like,
well, I'm talking about the franchising of it, like when we entered the franchise era.
Okay,
the LCS has been around
the
whole time,
okay,
but I'm talking about like specifically the franchise era.
I was mixing them
because the
up.
franchise era was the elimination of relegation, 10 permanent teams, all that stuff. So there was a little rule that kind of tweaked over time, because one of the first like concepts that came up when people were talking about the franchise league, because the whole idea, like I said, with franchise leagues, if you were a franchise team, you got paid a yearly stipend, salary, whatever you want to call it, for being a part of League of Legends esports, right? It gives you X amount of money because you are a team, you're fielding a team, you're supposedly checking all the boxes, right?
Yeah.
So here's your paycheck for being a part of our league and contributing to it. Everyone's like, okay, well, if these orgs can't get kicked out, what's to stop them from fielding a fucking team of shitters, paying them all league minimum and just collecting their check at the end of every year? And they have no incentive to try to improve their roster, to try to maintain a competitive roster. That was always the thing thrown around, is their roster being maintained competitive?
And all they have to do is just keep paying for their slot in the league, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, no, I would say you paid to get in the first place. At that point, you don't pay again. Like,
there's no dues
you have
to
the slot.
keep your...
I don't know exactly. From what I know, it's not like a dues thing. Once you paid in, you are in, and as long as you are, I'm sure there's a contract renewal, but that's like what, every 5 years, every
Something
10 years,
like that,
who knows what the length on that is.
Yeah.
So it's like until you reach contract minimum time, you field a league roster minimum, you collect your yearly check for whatever, 5 years, whatever it is, and then you fucking bow out. So everyone's like, what's to stop people from doing that? And they had like this rule that was not a rule, but like existed, where they're like, if you field a roster that is like if the Riot deems that your roster, like you're not actually dedicated to fielding a competitive roster, then like they are allowed to essentially give away your slot. They can expel you from the league, right?
Right.
Immortals, when they returned to League of Legends in, I believe, 2020. 2020 is when they obtained Optic's spot. Optics went over to Immortals bought the Optic slot. And so from essentially 2020 up until, I believe, 2023, so 3 years, across 8 splits. That's 3 years, so two fucking like from the end of 2023 to the beginning of 2020, across 8 splits, Immortals was in bottom 2 of the league every single split. All of them. They never made it out of top 2.
Damn.
At any point. Any roster. Everyone was like, we invoking the rule? Like, you guys said, X amount of years, up for debate. Are we kicking Immortals out? Like that became the prevailing thing after like 3 years of this shit. People were like, why is this team still here? They've been bottom 2 every time. What are they doing? Riot did not invoke the rule. Now, with LTA being what it is, maybe it makes a little more sense. They're not really hasty to pull the trigger because they know in the back of their minds, doesn't matter anyway. They're not making it into LTA. Who the fuck cares? Let them play another year and burn themselves out. We don't care because they're not coming back.
Right.
So maybe that's why they don't invoke it. But I think let's say, conspiracy theory on that aside. Like, let's say they let him sit around for the last year because they're like, why are we going to move to replace them when we're reducing the league size anyway? Maybe that's it. Also, part of me brings up this thing that is, in the wake of the 100 Thieves fucking guest slot, which, pisses me off, but whatever. It does raise a point that I think is worth talking about when you have these sort of established franchise options via, ESL or Riot in this case, where you have now established partnerships with all of these orgs. You've worked with them for X amount of years.
Yeah.
And it's clearly proven that they are consistent in the sense that you're at least on the same page, right? They're putting in as much as you are, or at least enough to satisfy what you need from them. And couple that with the fact that, like we said, outside of your major tier 1 orgs, esports can be very sketchy when it comes to figuring out who you are partnering with. So when you're like, well, fuck, this team sucks, they're fucking riding the minimum, they're paycheck stealing from Riot Games, or, they're fucking paycheck stealing, they're gatekeeping ESL with their dog shit team, whatever, this, that, and the third. When we talk, and I do think there's something to be said about that. I don't want to say like, fuck it, who cares? Because like, yeah, totally. I don't agree with like the idea of fielding a non-competitive roster in order to, collect the check, right? But there is something to be said on the hesitancy to like kick these people from their slot, because it's like, who are you going to find, because you have to fill the slot, right? Especially if like you're Riot, right? Maybe ESL doesn't. Maybe they can just open a free slot. But if you're Riot and you kick a team, you have to replace the team. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Someone has to come in to do that. So now you've got to field you got to field.
Their events are like open, so you
exactly. Their events are open anyway.
Qualify,
so they
have a set permanent teams that compete all the time and are on like the ESL payroll, as opposed to the other teams that compete and try to just win.
Yeah,
to get paid.
So they're a little more open, but I think more when you compare it to like the Riot example, right? Where it's like, well, why didn't you kick Immortals? And it's like, well, maybe they didn't have a guarantee that
nobody else is going to buy that slot.
Yeah, they need to find someone who's not only going to buy the slot, but they're like, yeah, you look like you're in this for the long haul.
Which is like why they're combining
to flip
the
a fucking coin.
Also,
yeah,
because it gives them access to 2 regions worth of teams to field slots, instead of just splitting them.
And it's
well, 3 regions.
You don't have there's less overhead, right? You're not fielding 3 legitimate leagues across North America, because there were all of America. Yeah, the Americas, because you had 3 leagues. You had fucking
LLA,
both
CB
CB
and NALCS.
And NALCS. So you had LCS 3 leagues.
LEC is Europe now.
You reduced all of that down to 1. Obviously, there are the cuts in other places, all that shit. So obviously it's less overhead on their end, so they can save money there. But yeah, the point is, and you're right, it's less orgs they have to worry about trusting, right? It's easier for them to field good organizations that they think are going to contribute to the health of the league as a whole.
You don't get bleed scenarios.
Right, you're running it. Yeah, you're running into less of that shit because there's just less slots to go around. And like I said, all that's good. It's necessary. It's important. But yeah, it's just tough out there inherently to find slots and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right in the sense that like ESL probably doesn't have to worry as much because they're open bracket events anyway. And like the open bracket event, there is something to it. I don't think it works for every game. I talk about the fighting game format a lot because I do think it's great. I think there's something to the magic of open bracket tournaments where it's like, there's always that chance, you
the
like I
sleeper
said,
pick, the dark horse of the tournament. You make that
Yeah,
storyline, that run.
it kind of creates this break in the balance where it's like it creates cool moments inherently. Like I always talk about how I've been kind of lucky. I guess some people will call it unlucky, but lucky in the sense where in a lot of my pools across events I've entered, I've had players in my pool that like I looked up to or were really good, or like my Daytona pool for Guilty Gear Strive, Punk was the number 1 seed in my pool, and I had to play Punk, which obviously sucked. I got my shit wrecked, but it was a really cool experience. I got to play against, not in Street Fighter, but like in Guilty Gear, I had to play against one of my favorite Street Fighter players of all time.
You guys have a conversation with him afterwards.
Yeah, I talked to him and shit, and like, and the big one at my Evo pool, for Street Fighter 6, Daigo Umehara was in my Evo pool, dude. Like, I was geeking, bro. Like that dude when I was like a kid, and like before I like followed competitive games, and like I was just like I would watch Evo every year. Like that was like my competitive fighting game thing, because I didn't even like understand how any of this shit worked. I was just like, oh, Evo's on, let me watch Evo. Like that was it.
For the non-initiated esports adjacent people who are trying to get into the scene, this is like Michael Jordan being in your pickup basketball game.
No, this guy is arguably the most famous Street Fighter player of all time. Yeah. He is a Japanese legend. He's been playing the game since fucking Street Fighter 2. Still very good. Like, the literal
famous
legend.
Evo
Michael
Moment
Jordan.
37.
Yeah, the Evo Moment 37 guy. That's Daigo Umehara.
Yeah, the parry.
And I loved Daigo. I still love Daigo. I always joke about how I'm a Daigo fan. I love Daigo so much. I love Daigo and Takedo so much that there is only a select group of American players that I will root for over Daigo and Takedo. That's how much I love those two Japanese players. And that guy was in my pool. That guy was sitting next to me. That guy watched my Ken match in pool, like standing behind me. I have a picture that my friend took that I didn't even know he was there, but Daigo was standing behind me looking at my, obviously probably not fucking internalizing anything, but like watching my screen as I played Ken against this random other person. Like, I was freaking out about that. And that's only possible in an open bracket format. That only happens because in the open bracket format, everyone's going in. Like, obviously you need proper seating and shit.
Yeah.
But like beyond the proper seating aspect, everyone is starting somewhere together, and you are breaking, you are beating ass all the way to the end.
Your seating kind of has a control, like you know who the top players are, so it's easier to
the number 1 seed in every pool is gonna, at
like
the
a
bottom
pro player, and then
it's gonna be a pro player, and
the
guess
random
what?
schmuck from Nebraska that signed up is like the
Rangser guy is going to play him round 1, and he's going to get obliterated. Like, it's going to be Daigo versus shitter with no data 3, and guess what? That's probably in a 6K man Street Fighter tournament like the Evo one. Daigo's probably going through 2 pools of that, where he's absolutely shitting on everyone for 2 pools straight. Like, but that's how it is, because obviously you don't want to have this, you don't want random seeding. But that's like the magic of that format, and that's like something that I think exclusively exists in fighting games, and I think you're seeing it invested in other things. Because like you look at like Riot, right? Like, I don't think you can really, if you're Riot, you can't really do it for like League of Legends, right? Like, you don't really want that. Like, you've got the established leagues, you got the established franchises, but you've seen them with TFT, right? TFT is all open bracket. Anytime they hold an event, it's an open bracket event. They're like, come out, fucking open bracket TFT. With 2XKO, I think it's less of like an open bracket thing, and more they're like the fighting game is.
What was that TFT player's name? You just reminded me.
The only one
was it like Wajan Iverson or something like that?
That's very funny. I didn't know that. The only one I know is Soju, who's like the C9 fucking TFT player, and like Hafu.
I think it is
Hafu Arena World Champion.
It is Wajan Iverson. He's a Canadian TFT player signed to Fnatic.
Okay.
Shout out Wajan Iverson. That's a goated name.
I would say there's some goat names in that game. And some sick people. But fucking Yeah, like 2XKO, right? I think 2XKO is maybe less of an open bracket thing and more like obviously they're not going to rock the boat. Like it's very clear. Like they do research into the culture around the game they're getting into.
They have
like
FGC like veterans
yeah
and goats
so
working on that game.
Obviously they're not going to fucking walk into 2XKO and be like, guys, we're legalifying this. It's like no, they know what's up. It's like this game will be a part of y'all's tournament circuit like anything else.
Yeah.
Play it and do your thing. And you know, will they maybe introduce their own invitational once they see? And that's something I'll give them. Riot doesn't just like, we're throwing money at the game and we're fucking off to the races. First year's an international event. No.
I mean, it's going to be at Evo,
there.
but
they don't have
not
any
a main
part
event.
Of yeah, I was going to say, like, they have fucking no
the
part
Evo committee
like,
isn't going to be like, hey, Riot Games is huge and they just released a game. Let's make it a main game.
Yeah, Riot Games is not going to walk to Evo and be like, here's a bunch of money, make sure this is shit's on main stage. Will it be? Yeah, because it's going to be insanely popular. It's going to have a ton of entrants. So absolutely, it's going to be a main stage game at Evo, 100%. But Riot doesn't have to do that. They just let it do its thing.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. I mean, what? VCT wasn't established until the second year of Valorant, right? Yep. It's not like they didn't throw that shit out there and were like, guys, immediately, you're all going to love Valorant, so we're immediately throwing $300,000 behind this tournament.
You know what is doing that, though? Marvel Rivals. Marvel Rivals just came out, and they in their like homepage on the game, on one of their tabs, they have ranked isn't out yet, so that's a whole other thing. Ranked is gonna be unlocked at some point soon, unless it unlocks like today, and I'm just being stupid. But ranked isn't, as far as I know, ranked isn't out. But they have I think it's like the RWC or the MWC
whatever.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Right, which is the World Championships or something like that. That they have like listed and announced that is a thing that is happening in their game. Now as esport as veteran esport viewers, right? And we've seen games do something like this. We saw it with Battlerite, where they went all in on esports very early on. Is that something good? Usually no. Is this an outlier because it is Disney Marvel money directly? Sure. It like this could be fine. They'll field like I'm sure it's gonna be like an invitational for the first season. It's not gonna run a circuit. It's gonna be 16 teams, huge orgs. They're gonna pay a bunch of ex-Overwatch players to play it and live stream it. They're gonna send them to a closed ballroom in some luxury hotel. They're gonna make it happen. There's gonna be no crowd, and the finals are gonna have a crowd at fucking Disney World and
the Disney NBA Experience restaurant.
Exactly. Yeah, you're gonna have them play at the Avengers campus.
It's where the Disney arcade used to be, and it was killed for the fucking NBA. Oh god, makes me so mad.
Good things can't last forever.
I'm glad we made it to here, because I actually do think this is probably the good closing point on health of a scene stuff, where I think we've successfully worked backwards from business to scene to the core, the first building block that I think can sometimes be overlooked.
The nucleus
in all of this shit. People gotta like your game, man. Your game's gotta be good. You don't get to tell people your game is an esport. I think back to Command and the
Red Alert.
I think back to Command. Well, I think back to Command and Conquer Rivals.
Okay.
So this was during 2018, I believe, is the release date for that game.
Yeah.
And this wasn't a solely this is the era, right? 2018, 2017. This is the era where, if you remember, if you were watching E3, every game with like a mildly competitive multiplayer function was like, guys, we're shipping esports ready. This game is ready for esports.
I'm gonna find that clip.
You don't get to make that call, bro.
Yeah.
And if you have a game that no one wants to invest time to get competitive in, then no matter how many fucking dumb little things you've set aside to like for tournaments or whatever, hey, half of our fucking budget is on half our marketing budget is our first esports event. If no one wants to play your game, no one gives a shit about your esports event. And that's why I think shit like that is fucked up. It's why I think Riot...
It has a Urban Dictionary page, the term esports ready.
That's very
dating
funny.
back to 2019. That's awesome.
No, I mean that was the era, yeah. Because the reason, because Command and Conquer Rivals, like I said, that is the one that I always think of because I remember seeing that trailer at an E3, being like, this is a bastardization of an RTS I like because it was a mobile version of it.
They said it with Valorant. They said it with CS2 even. They said it with Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six shipped with it. Rainbow Six trailer happened. The what's her name? The Ubisoft chick. That's not the Ubisoft.
Yes, Aisha
Maybe
Tyler.
she still works there. I don't know. I haven't
Are you
seen
talking
her.
about Aisha Tyler, the like spokesperson that they had? For
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
If she still works there or not. I just remember her being at like every E3. She came out and she's like, "We're shipping Rainbow Six Siege. Esports ready." She points to the crowd. And everybody's like, "Yeah."
Fun fact. She never worked for Ubisoft. She's an actress.
I know she's an actress, but she was just always there. I thought she was on their payroll.
No, yeah, she was like their spokesperson for
Yeah.
sure. She was just getting contracts, I'm sure.
Okay.
But yeah,
Wasn't she like in a Marvel show?
she's been in a bunch of shit. She's
But like one of like the like really early ones that like, never made it
probably.
to Netflix. Because I know like
Yeah,
Rosario
probably.
Dawson was like who they picked up for that.
Yeah, probably. She's probably in a Marvel show at some point. I'm willing to bet. She's in The Boys, I think.
Is
Or
The
she was
Boys?
in like she was in I think the spin-off show for The Boys or something. Like she's a voice in the animated one. I don't know. She's in 24. I know that.
She's in 24. That's what I was thinking of.
I
I
would
don't
say
know
she
why I
was
thought it
in
was a Marvel
24
show.
for sure.
It was
Yeah.
24.
Yeah. But yeah, esports ready, like you said. No one gets to make that determination, but the people playing the game. And like, yes, I think there are ways to make your game competitive in the sense where like when you're designing the game, when you're building the game as a game designer, obviously I think there is a box in your head that says this game should have competitive depth. And then like, okay, if we know this game's supposed to be competitively deep anyway, how can we tick little boxes to support an esports scene should it arrive, right? And like you said, Valorant, CS2, obviously those games are gonna they're already like
Riot Games has the pedigree to make that work, and Counterstrike has the legacy of being Counterstrike.
Right.
To make that
Riot
work.
is invested in esports, so they know when they're making Valorant, they can look at CS and be like, "Hey, how do we check some of these boxes that this game would need to have if it were to field an esports scene?"
Yeah.
CS2, right? Like you said, they're coming from literally the legacy of Counter-Strike. So obviously when you're designing CS2, you're like, this needs to check these boxes to maintain the competitive nature or help our scene for this game, right? But when you're, like you said, battle right, you don't get to make that determination, bro. You don't get to make that.
Yeah.
Marvel Rivals,
you sacrifice
I see where you're coming from. Like,
for...
yeah, they've got Disney money. But like, yeah.
The same time, if people aren't playing your, like, you have Disney money, sure, but if people aren't playing your game,
if no one cares, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, if they're like, oh, it's more Marvel Multiverse Saga slop, I'm not playing it.
I mean, look at Overwatch. That game had all the goodwill in the world, not because it was built to be obviously it was built to be competitive, but it didn't have an esports scene until much later into the lifespan.
It had
Blizzard pedigree. It was a well-designed game. People were liking it.
They invested so much into the marketing, the lore of the game, where people were like invested in the world when it came out.
Right, and then they kind of fucked up their esports scene with like what we talked about, the geolocation.
But not even like at the start, the Owl announcement had people excited. They're like, dude, there's gonna be a team in my city. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, because they were trying at the time, they were trying what people had been talking about for like years at that point, right? Yeah. Like they were the first ones to make the attempt. Which, I think there's some value in that. Obviously now we know it's a learning experience, probably shouldn't have been done. But on top of that, we're talking about like you said, they invested in this thing. That game wasn't even like killed by that. That game was honestly, if we're being real, killed by just a series of terrible metas, right? Like that is why people stopped playing Overwatch. It was nothing to do with the fucking. It was just a bunch of just dog shit meta after dog shit meta, and they never really could correct
a thing within its own right.
No, and that is part of like esports that is tough, right? And it goes back to like the game nature of like what we play, right? Basketball, the rules don't change that often. Football, the rules don't change that often.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every now and again, they feel like they have to introduce a big rule change, and it happens. Those are
you don't have characters.
Those are
decade
changes.
Abilities in sports.
We're not introducing a new ball. We're up to 5 different balls in basketball, and each team gets a ball ban at the start of it's. We're not doing that.
You get the flaming netball from NBA Jam as a selectable ball type in basketball.
Yeah, we're not playing like football where it's like
you have Olympic weighted ball that you can play with.
We're not literally out here playing football where it's like, all right, we're in New Orleans. You get to pick one of 3 stage hazards. Do you want the laser tripwire on the 20th yard line, the flaming log on the goal line, or the wispy wind blow tree that fucks up your field goals? Like,
the 10-yard gorge that you have to jump over to get first down.
Yeah, so obviously
football
the changing nature of esports.
That would be so sick.
Dude, as a person who enjoys Blitz the League, I get that we have like human rights violations, but I think if we existed in a world where when your player got injured, you could choose to sit them out or juice them with steroids, it would be interesting.
It's like Blood Bowl.
It's like Blood Bowl. Yeah, but like you said, it's an ever-changing thing, and sports obviously don't have that. It's a very different thing, and like I don't want to harp too much on like because I think there are obviously similarities and differences when you look at like traditional or T sports, as they like to say, and
T-sports.
Electronic and esports. Yeah,
we're coining the term T sports. Is that the name of the episode?
We're not coining it. I can't take it is a term that was coined before me.
Okay.
But yes, if you want to call it that, yeah, T sports is a thing. And so yeah, like, but yeah, the point is like you said, the game matters. Over investing early, like Marvel Rivals is obviously the hot new thing on the block, and it's got hype, right? People are playing it, people are enjoying it. I see people talking about how much fun like they're having right now with the game, and they're like, oh, this game's like already correcting like issues that Overwatch had for years, yada yada yada. Some of that's new game syndrome. I'm sure we all deal with that. Anytime a new thing comes out, you play it and you're like, this is the shit. And then as people get better and the problems get unveiled, then we determine stuff. But yeah, I think it's ridiculous to try to invest all this money into an esports scene when your game has no pedigree. It has nothing to build upon. It's not, because yeah, it's one thing for CS2 to do it. Like you said, CS2 is a counterstrike game.
Yeah.
When Capcom announces that Street Fighter 6, its first year has a Capcom Pro Tour event, of course it does. It's a Street Fighter game.
Yeah.
Of course it's going to have the Pro Tour.
This is also not to say
the TWT.
anything about Deadlocked and Supervive as well, if we're going to jump off with new games as well.
No, and here's the deal. Guess what? Do you see Valve talking about the Deadlock Super League that's coming out the first year of Deadlock?
No. Not at all.
Because why would they? We don't know. We have no idea. People love Deadlock. I love Deadlock. People are playing Deadlock competitively when it's in alpha, which we already had that episode's out there. You can hear my thoughts on that shit. Which more power to you.
Yeah.
But my point is, Valve's not like, guys, you're right. We're going to start throwing money at esports in Deadlock alpha. No, because they're not fucking dumb. And you don't see orgs jumping to sign Deadlock alpha players for 100K salaries.
They're definitely keeping an eye on it.
Absolutely.
They expect it, right?
Yeah, if you're any smart talent scout, you're looking at that and being like, okay, if this game gets hype on release, who are we signing? 100%. But they're not doing it now.
Same thing with Supervive.
Dumb to do that.
A finished game.
Same thing with Supervive.
That all the tournaments are still grassroots. Good. It's very fun.
Yeah.
And it combines our favorite parts of Apex with our favorite parts of League. And it just makes a very fun game. And the tournaments are fun to watch.
It's constant balance things. But you said, that game is in beta, like you said. Yeah. And guess what? Supervive isn't out, and they're doing pretty well. I was seeing their average player base in beta right now is like 12,000, 15,000 a day.
Before Marvel Rivals came out, it was topping the MOBA charts on Steam. Like, it was beating out Dota and Smite and a few others. I was seeing numbers like 12 to 15K a day, like concurrents, like on average, and peaking sometimes at like 20,000. It was doing numbers, like it was doing good player numbers. You don't see this on Twitch was huge too.
Yeah, you don't see the fucking Supervive team going like, well, guys, game comes out in 2025, and alongside it, the Supervive League.
They also have the experience from being ex-Riot devs. Like they were there for a lot of that. What's
the early onset stuff?
I forget the name of their lead.
I don't know the names on the devs over there. But he's
been on like the Riot
I know
updates before. You've seen him before.
They are old, very high end Riot people.
So they also know what it takes to be like, hey, sure, this game is competitive. We know people are probably going to want esports.
Yeah, they're gonna sweat at it. They're gonna try to play it competitively. Right? They're gonna build their own rosters.
There's already been open tournaments happen. Also, the MRC is what the league is called for Marvel. That is also an open tournament that you can sign up as a team and compete in it.
I think totally fine.
And it's being facilitated by NetEase, but it is a full open. It's not like an invitation.
Right. They're not sending out invitations because, once again, having a fucking invitational for a new game is also like an absurd thing that no one should ever do. That's just dumb as fuck. What merits an invite? Because you're an org? Like, come on. But yeah,
fighting
these open bracket things.
It's like you have fighting game players that are legacy players.
Well, and to be real, those invitationals, they don't really happen for new games. They happen when people are like established, right? Yeah. Like the only invitation, like outside of the Pro Tours, and the Pro Tours are invitationals. They're not really invitationals. We said, they're usually rewarding leaderboards or tournament placements at other major events.
I think Dragon Ball had one, but that's because it's Bamco and they can hire high-end players to like show off their game.
So no, you're talking about their first. You're talking about the first year, right? The Dragon Ball World Tour thing?
Like right when Dragon Ball came out, I think as a publicity thing, they did a 16-player invitational of Leffen and HBox.
I'm not if we're talking promotional tournaments, I think that's a different thing. Yeah. That's no different than Supervive holding the Creator Cup, right? That's
the only time you'll see an invitational work out in a game's favor.
Right. And exactly. That is not an invitational. You're right. They call it that sometimes, but let's all be real. Those are promotional tournaments. Those are promotional events. They're not inviting anyone based on skill merit for that game. They're inviting them because they're a popular streamer or they're popular in fighting games and decent. It's the same thing as in fighting games. You get show matches where they're like, we got these 2 Street Fighter players to show off high level Street Fighter before it's out yet. Because that's the thing, man, is I feel like, especially, and we've gotten away from it for obvious reasons because there's just less money in esports, and obviously it's not as hot buttony as it used to be. It's much more established now. It's been going for a while, so you don't see it as often where games come out with this fucking esports ready pitch and all this.
You don't have the eyes on it that you had for the Fortnite World Cup,
right?
That was that was the biggest the bubble got. I feel like,
and like I said. That's in my opinion, not a bad thing because this bullshit of over investing in these games that are just literally not gonna even develop a scene, right? It's just insane.
Yeah.
And I think you see, you talk about Battle Right all the time. I
love that game.
That's part of what killed that game.
I love that game.
I too liked that game. I thought that game was very fun.
It had the potential to.
Yeah, I thought it was a good time. But you over-index on this shit. And you put all this money before the people even care. That's the thing, is people have to care. At the root of all of this, people have to care about the game. They have to care about the game enough to want to take it seriously and take it competitively. And then once you have that buy-in, then you can start forming from there. You work up.
That's when
you need to stop skipping steps.
Listen, the fighting game community loves to say it. It all started in the arcades, man. It all started in the arcades.
We're so far past that era now, but you're right. It did start.
But I mean, that's where it started, right? Fighting games wouldn't be where they are if it wasn't the arcades.
100%.
Right? We wouldn't have we wouldn't have the international or anything if it wasn't for Wikipedia tournaments or Star Ladders or things like that before.
No. Yeah, we wouldn't. You're right about all of it. 100%. League of Legends wouldn't be League of Legends without the OPL Korea days, right? And shit like that. As much as we have had a quote unquote North American scene for a long time, people like Faker make League of Legends what League of Legends is. Hard stop. you know, like at the end of the day. If you never had a faker, he rose that game. Like that's a player that
game. That's why he's
elevated.
That's
the
why
game,
he's the first inductee into their Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
there could be others, but the first one being Faker makes sense.
My point is, I do. There was a debate early on where, you know, obviously you have to induct Faker first because he's Faker, but there were people who were like, I don't like the idea of inducting an active player into a Hall of Fame, and I am also one of those people. I think it's a little, maybe it's the T-Sports guy in me talking, but I am definitely
a player as decorated as Faker.
You're right, but you need to make the distinction immediately, in my opinion. When you induct him, Faker is the only person who is currently playing that will be allowed into it. Everyone else from this point forward will be retired.
Sure.
The reason he is being given this exception is because
I don't think for a very long time we'll see anybody as like prolific
I don't think you
as
ever
Faker.
Will. No, I agree with you. I don't think I like I said, I will go the stretch further. I don't think we ever will. Period. I don't think you'll ever see someone as dominant for as long as Faker in maybe any esport, not just League of Legends.
Doublelift and Bjergsen deserve their flowers as well, though. They deserve to be inducted.
Yeah, go to North America. You can have multiple great players. Like, that's the thing is, like, obviously there's goats all over the place, right? Like, there are Chinese players, Uzi.
Really, it should have been like a collection of players that were inducted, because there's a lot of retired players now that deserve a spot along with Faker up there. Faker being the first, definitely sure, but it should have been like
you make him the first, and then, you know, if you want to do classes from here on out, where it's like class of 2025, whatever. If you want to go player by player,
sure.
My only thing with him being inducted was, like I said, if you're gonna induct a player who's currently playing, you need to make him the only one. Yeah. We should never induct another player that is currently playing into the Hall of Fame if we're gonna do that, or the Hall of Legends, whatever they wanted to call it. Every person who gets put in there from this point forward should be
inactive,
retired, inactive player. Yeah. Period. Hard stop. That is my.
If they come back to competitive play, does that invalidate their induction?
No, because you're not when you inducted them, you had their full body of work, and you know, if they come back later and try again, that's a different era. It's a different thing, right? Yeah. But
can they be inducted twice? They perform just as good, if not better.
I don't think so.
No, you just.
I don't think you need to at that point. Yeah, it just adds to the legacy of them already there. Because I definitely and I am one of those people who feel very strongly, if you want your like Hall of Fame to feel, you know, real and important, when they go in, they should have like an established body of work that you can refer to, and that's what makes them a Hall of Famer, right? And you're right. Faker has absolutely already built that for himself, even though he's still playing. Yeah. Just like I said, make him the only exception. Period. Hard stop. You know,
make LeBron
him
James
be like,
in the
this
Hall
is
of Fame?
the only guy. So this gets to the thing where it's like, obviously LeBron James will be a Hall of Fame basketball player, and you can't say it. I don't even like LeBron James. I'm a LeBron James hater.
You didn't even like him on the Heat. Listen, we've had this discussion.
I don't like LeBron James, period, hard stop. I think he's a little bit of a bitch. I think especially in his latter years, he's still good, but like the dude plays like 20 minutes out of a game now and builds a roster around him, which is smart. Smart play, you know, it's the Tom Brady effect, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't like Tom Brady either.
Listen, that team fell apart when he left, so.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. He's obviously one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
And then you got to explain
LeBron
to
James
Boston fans that
a
Patriots have never been shit. It was all just Brady, and they hate to hear it, but, you know.
It was the combination of Brady and Belichick, but you're right. He had more of an impact that I think they would like to let you believe, like New England would like to let you believe.
It's the Pat Riley quote. Fuck Boston.
Yeah.
I'll ride that wave.
Yeah, but yes. You're right. I think LeBron, when you look at like LeBron's career, it's like obviously he's still playing, so he's not going to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. The second that guy retires, he's going into a Hall of Fame. Yes, 100%.
It really was a T-Sports episode, man.
He probably deserves it.
We had so many like basketball, football references this episode.
I mean,
just as much.
Well, that's the thing is those are long-lasting sports leagues. Yeah, that is
to build esports.
Those things are what esports was based on. Yeah. And I think over time you've seen people attempt to copy the T-Sports model, And I think there are certain things that work and there are certain ones that don't. And like that's the important thing. And I think we esports as a whole has gotten better at learning when to be like, all right, we don't need that. Like that's a over there thing. This is an over here thing. We need to do things differently from time to time. And that's important.
There's things we can emulate, but we are not traditional sports. We have balance patches. We have
we're not traditional sports.
We have international rosters. We have all kinds of things.
We were bred and built differently. Like it's just like this scene was created differently. And like because like you said, geolocation is massive in sports. Mm-hmm. And that's because of where it comes from. The closest you get to that is maybe obviously like national pride, right? Like we still have that, like an Olympic standpoint. Obviously everyone is out here, the USA chants, we talk about it, the NA-EU rivalry in League of Legends. As local as it gets, in my opinion, is fighting games and like coast scenes. Like, and those, if we're being honest, aren't even nearly as big as they used to be. That was much more of like an 09 thing, right?
Yeah. You had, when you had the East Coast versus West Coast, like crew battles and things like that across games.
That was way more of like an 09 FGC thing. I think, and people talk about
Florida
it now, they
and
talk
Texas
about how
have a beef. Like,
you used to see it everywhere. There was
that's like the current one that I know about. We have like the Texas versus Florida like crew battle beef, and even then it's like we have like a CFL versus SFL beef in some games.
Yeah, like there's inner stuff and like, but like I said, all that stuff is less of a thing. I feel like the most you hear about coast now is the Midwest like loves to rep the Midwest, but like it's like as far as it goes, like
Arizona loves being Arizona.
Illinois, they're the ones I think of every time. The Illinois, the Chicago, that area, they love that shit.
Is it Ace? I think that's his name. Might be a Smash player or Rivals of Aether player, but he always shows up to a tournament with the Arizona flag on his back to represent Arizona.
Oh, Axe. Yeah, we're talking about Axe.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
No, 100%. Axe is one of those. Yeah, he's got the flag on his back, And like, if Smash had a big West Coast, I mean, we all Street Fighter 4 era, FGC West versus East Coast was huge.
I mean, the esports arena is in California, so if it's still open, I think they opened like 2 branches and one of them closed recently.
There was one in Las Vegas. I don't know if that one's still open or not. There's one.
I think they opened that one recently.
That one was there at least like 2 years ago because I saw it. We went to it. It was like a HyperX one though. It might not have been the esports arena, but it was like a HyperX one.
The esports arena because I know they've been in like Santa Monica or something like that for like forever.
Yeah. But yeah, that is the closest I think you can get to like geolocated stuff. Is definitely there was an era of like coast stuff. I mean, it plays into the marketing of like Combo Breaker, right? Like the Combo Breaker tagline is like no coast, no kings because it's like in the middle of the Midwest, like
Evo's was Battle of the Bay. That was before it was Evo.
Yeah, that's when it started out. Yeah, back when it was the previous stuff. Like there is a localized scene aspect to fighting games that is definitely another unique FGC thing that.
But I think other games.
I think it's faded, but yeah, I do think you see it in maybe other places too. But yeah, it's just hard it's hard to establish that for, like you said, for like a League of Legends when everything competitive in North American League of Legends is played in LA. Period. Hard stop.
It's also easier in fighting games too because you only need one person, right?
No, yeah, 100%.
It's harder to field 5 other people to
huge.
play.
Yeah. It's a team sport versus literally, like you said, a 1v1 competitive thing, you know? I'm happy that we're embracing other formats. Like, that's something that I don't think we'll have to maybe save for another discussion because we're going long here and we should probably wrap soon.
Yeah, we can do part 2 of this.
Yeah. The idea of... I do want to talk at some point about the idea of other kinds of events to help build your scene as well.
Yeah.
Because I think just now, recently, in fighting games, we're starting to see people try out team tournaments and Sajam with like his streamer like Sajam Slam events. And I think these things are super valuable for the health and like building your scene and getting outside people to come in and look at what's going on because they're fun. Do they replace the Evo, the World Tour, the 1v1 open bracket event? No. But they're really great for showing multiple aspects of your thing. Look at the Street Fighter 6 stuff. SFL is fucking huge in Japan. Like fucking massive. bigger than like. I guarantee you, the Japanese audience cares more about who's fucking winning over an SFL than they do who won Combo Breaker.
Nope.
I guarantee it. Like
baseball, SFL, every other tournament after that. That is the Japanese sport calendar.
But yeah, no, we'll talk about all that stuff later, because I do think in FGC specifically right now we're entering a weird era where people are starting to flirt with a team tournament again, and I think it's very good. But you're right, that is a core difference for sure when you're dealing with like a team sport like League of Legends versus any fighting game where it's inherently just a 1v1 thing.
Well, with all that being said, I feel like we've shared our piece. We've made our points. More points to definitely be made, but there's a lot more happening now. Where the end of the year is ramping up as tournaments are coming to a head with a bunch of more majors. CS.
A lot of closeouts, CS,
BLGS,
TWT,
like that,
Capcom
TWT.
Cups around the corner. Yeah,
Yep.
BLG qualifiers going on right now.
So
Apex Champs happens a month or two from now. Yeah,
Our-
we're in it again.
our non-existent producers tell me that I need more viewer interaction. So sound off in the comments about your thoughts on the health of a scene, how your favorite
Call to
esport
action. Good
can
shit. Yeah.
grow and garner an audience outside of just
What kind of
the
events
players.
are you trying to see, man?
Yeah, what
you
events
want
you wanna see?
you want
What
somebody
tournament?
to you want FlyQuest to rent out a local bar so you can hang out with other FlyQuest people to watch playoffs? You
I
know?
missed this
What
part
are you
when we were
feeling,
talking about
bro?
that. Dota, for the longest
Yeah.
time, I don't know if they still do it. I think they still do, but you can sign up for a pub stomp during TI, which is like a sports bar or a local congregating area, can sign a form and be listed as a official pub stomp where they will broadcast the games at their location for people to congregate and watch and enjoy and communicate. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Dude,
sound
yeah.
off down in the comments about your favorite games, what you want for the health of their scene. If you're interested in other scenes, ask questions, engage with each other. If we had a Discord, I'd tell you to go there, but we don't. It's in progress. It should glow and brighten up when you say this. Like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a bunch, and it'll help us and incentivize us to make more content and put it out in a timely manner, because I'm really lazy with the editing.
W spit.
But yeah.
We signed up for twice a week. I think we've hit that every time, or twice a month.
Twice a month. Yeah, we signed up
Yeah.
for twice a month, and I've tried
We
to
hit that
keep
every
that
time. Yeah.
sometime. It's supposed to be on
We're not
Wednesdays,
late.
but it's usually like you get 2 episodes at the last week of the month. But
We
it's
said
fine.
early the days are flexible, you
Yeah.
know, as we feel out format and stuff.
We're growing as
Yeah.
esports grows, ever changing.
Ever change.
With that, keep it. Well, I say keep it locked every episode. So keep hitting those hot keys.
Keep those keys hot.
You wanna
slamming
finish them off with the holy trinity of HotKeys Esports.
Yeah. As always, here on HotKeys Esports, just know it's about passion first,
Number
mental
1,
second,
keep it
and
sharp.
hands third.
Passion, mental, hands. Phase up, everybody. And we'll see you in the next one.